Tick-tock, the midnight clock chimed, and Evelyn Sterling sat alone on the sofa. She was still waiting for that man to come home. Click. The sound of the door opening came right on time. A smile touched Evelyn's face. No matter what, he always came home before the stroke of midnight. And she, no matter how late, would always wait for him. It was his habit, and it was hers. "You're back." Evelyn moved to take Ethan Hawthorne's coat. A familiar scent of perfume drifted into her nose. Evelyn's expression dimmed. She had been smelling that same perfume for 3 years, but she didn't wear perfume. Ethan kicked off his shoes, walked to the fridge, and chugged a bottle of ice water. Yeah. After that, not another word was exchanged between them. The atmosphere fell into a strange, heavy silence. Evelyn was used to this silence. For the past 3 years, Ethan had grown increasingly cold and distant. She tossed his coat into the laundry hamper. Watching the back of the man she had loved for 10 years, the words she had held back for 3 years finally spilled out. "Ethan, are you tired of me?" Ethan paused, then slowly nodded. "Yes." Evelyn staggered. Although she had long known the answer, hearing it from his own lips was still agonizing. Biting her lower lip, her face pale, Evelyn asked, "Were you at Vivian Shaw's again?" Ethan turned, his cold, sharp features facing her. "Yes. It was her birthday." "Birthday?" Evelyn's eyes darkened. "Ethan, you remember Vivian Shaw's birthday, but you've forgotten that today is my birthday, too." 3 years ago, he would never have forgot. It wasn't just her birthday. Ethan remembered every anniversary with perfect clarity, but 3 years ago, everything changed. Ethan became cold, distant, a stranger to her. Evelyn took a deep breath. "Ethan, we need to talk." A flicker of something passed through the depths of Ethan's eyes. "All right." He sat on the sofa directly across from her. Evelyn's lips moved. "We should." Just then, Ethan's phone rang. Evelyn swallowed the rest of her words. At this hour, the only person who would call Ethan was her. Ethan answered the phone naturally. "What's wrong?" He glanced at Evelyn and nodded. "Okay, I'm on my way." With that, he found a clean jacket and put it on. "I have to go out for something." Ethan rushed out the door. Bang. The door closed, shutting down Evelyn's world along with it. She wrung her hands, staring blankly at the door. "Why, Ethan, why are you doing this to me? If you don't love me anymore, if the feelings are gone, you could just tell me directly. Why treat me with such indifference like I'm a stranger?" "Ethan, don't you know how much this hurts?" It hurt so much. Her heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife, the pain so intense she could hardly breathe. She curled up on the sofa like a small, lost and desperate animal, hiding in the darkness. Evelyn didn't sleep a wink, waiting all night for Ethan to return. But even as dawn began to break, the front door remained silent. It wasn't until just after 6 in the morning that Ethan finally came back. When he saw Evelyn on the sofa, Ethan was clearly stunned for a moment. Then, an unreadable light flickered in his eyes. "Up so early?" Evelyn didn't answer him. Her gaze was fixed on his collar. "There, a bright red lipstick stain," Evelyn mumbled. She stood up, turned away, and a hot tear escaped her eye. She hurried into the kitchen and started making breakfast. She couldn't let Ethan see her cry. An hour later, a full breakfast was laid out on the table. Evelyn went into the bedroom to wake their sleeping son. He was Kyle Hawthorne, the child they'd had in their 2nd year of marriage. After helping Kyle wash up in the bathroom, Evelyn led him to the dining table. "Good morning, Daddy." Kyle's voice was sweet and childish. Ethan nodded. "Eat." "Okay." Kyle nodded obediently and began to quietly eat his oatmeal. After breakfast, Evelyn took Kyle to preschool. "Bye-bye, Daddy." Kyle turned and waved at Ethan. Evelyn watched them quietly, a storm of emotions churning inside her. When she returned, Ethan was sitting on the sofa. It looked like he was waiting specifically for her. Evelyn walked silently towards the bedroom, pretending not to see him. Ethan stopped her. "Evelyn, let's talk." Evelyn froze, then turned with a bitter smile. "Yesterday, I wanted to talk, and one phone call from Vivian Shaw took you away. And now you want to talk?" Taking a deep breath, Evelyn sat down across from him. Ethan looked up, his gaze deep and steady on her, and finally spoke. "Evelyn, let's get a divorce." Evelyn's body trembled, her eyes welling up with heat. "Ethan, you finally said it." Even though she had been prepared for this moment, Evelyn was still stunned. Her lips trembled, a bitter taste flooding her mouth. "You've decided?" "Yes, I've decided." Ethan's voice was firm. All the fight went out of Evelyn and she slumped against the sofa. She laughed bitterly. Ethan frowned and opened his mouth but said nothing. He ignored the broken woman on the sofa, stood up, and walked back to their room. "Ethan!" Evelyn forced herself to speak, her voice strained. Ethan stopped and turned to look at her. Evelyn met his gaze and spoke slowly. "You were at Vivian's all night, weren't you?" Ethan's eyes were deep pools of darkness. He didn't answer. Evelyn nodded to herself. "I know, there's nothing left between us." She stood up and took a step closer. "For the past 3 years, you and Vivian have gotten closer and closer. You've probably forgotten that I, Evelyn Sterling, am your wife." Ethan's face was a mask. "What are you trying to say?" Evelyn straightened his collar, wiping at the conspicuous lipstick stain. "I'm saying that until we are divorced, I am still your wife. I don't care what you do out there, but don't you dare come home with lipstick stains on your collar." Evelyn yanked his collar, her face cold as she said flatly, "If you want to find another woman, wait until after we're divorced." With that, she turned and went back to her room without a backward glance. Slamming the door shut, Evelyn slid to the floor behind it, buried her head in her knees, and broke down sobbing. Ethan heard the muffled sobs from inside the room, his eyes losing focus. Suddenly, his face turned pale, his brows knitting together in pain. He clutched his chest and sat down, pulling a small vial from his pocket and pouring the contents into his mouth. After a moment, he slowly rose, walked to the door, and spoke softly to the woman inside. "Then it's settled. I'll have my lawyer draft the divorce papers in a couple of days. You'll get what's rightfully yours. I won't shortchange you." A long time passed with no response from inside. Ethan stood there a while longer before changing his clothes and leaving. Evelyn heard the sounds from outside the door and hugged herself tightly. Ethan's cold cruelty had nearly shattered her spirit. Memories of the past flooded her mind. 10 years ago, on a sunny afternoon, Evelyn, a new college student, met Ethan. They met, got to know each other, and fell in love. 5 years passed in a blur, and they were married. Ethan treated her like a queen, spoiling her endlessly. Soon after they married, Evelyn became pregnant. To focus on her pregnancy, she quit the job she loved. The following year, Kyle was born, and she felt like the happiest woman in the world. This blissful life lasted for 2 years, until one day, that woman appeared. Vivian Shaw, a rising jewelry designer, showed up at the Hawthorne Jewelry Design Expo. That day, Ethan and Vivian were inseparable. Vivian's fame grew, and so did the rumors about her and Ethan. From then on, Ethan began to grow distant, treating her with indifference. She had fought back at first, but it only earned her colder treatment. Over time, Evelyn resigned herself to it. She turned a blind eye to Ethan and Vivian, as if the world outside their front door had nothing to do with her. She poured all her energy into her child. But after 3 years of this, she truly couldn't bear it anymore. The lipstick stain on Ethan's collar was the final straw that broke her. A divorce? "Fine, I'm the one dumping you. Ethan Hawthorne, I'm the one divorcing you." Evelyn wiped her tears and gritted her teeth as she stood up. "He's just a man." Back in college, the guys chasing after me lined up from one end of campus to the other. "I don't need you, Ethan Hawthorne, without you. I, Evelyn Sterling, can live an even better life." But no matter how hard she tried to convince herself, the tears flowed uncontrollably. She stayed in her room all day. During that time, Ethan never appeared. She knew he must be with Vivian again. As afternoon approached, it was almost time to pick Kyle up from preschool. Evelyn washed her face and, for a change, put on makeup. Normally, she never wore any, but not today. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying, and she needed makeup to hide it. When she arrived at Kyle's preschool and was about to go in to get him, a flash of red seared her eyes. Vivian Shaw, she saw Vivian standing next to Ethan. A teacher was leading Kyle over to him. "Daddy," Kyle threw himself into Ethan's arms, calling out happily. Ethan stroked Kyle's head and picked him up. Vivian, wearing a red scarf with a simple, elegant coat, stood beside them, smiling. They looked more like a family of 3. Seeing Ethan about to leave with Kyle, Evelyn gritted her teeth and finally walked over. "Kyle," Evelyn called out. Ethan turned his head, and his brow furrowed when he saw her. Vivian's eyes glinted as she looked at Evelyn with amusement. It was Kyle, nestled in Ethan's arms, who cried out with delight, "Mommy!" Evelyn ignored the looks from Ethan and Vivian. She took Kyle from Ethan's arms. "What are you doing here?" Ethan's voice was calm. "Picking Kyle up from school. You don't need to. Evelyn's face was cold as she turned to leave with Kyle in her arms. Evelyn, darling, don't rush off. Why don't we all have dinner together? Vivian smiled, her hand slipping into the crook of Ethan's arm. The corner of Ethan's eye twitched, but he didn't pull away. Vivian's smile widened. She shot Evelyn a triumphant glance, raising an eyebrow. Evelyn didn't hide her disgust. Looking at you makes me lose my appetite. Vivian's face instantly darkened. She shook Ethan's arm petulantly. Ethan, did you hear her? She was talking about me. Vivian's affected manner made Evelyn feel nauseous. Disgusting cursing silently, Evelyn turned to walk away. Stop, Ethan's cold voice called after her. Evelyn didn't stop. Ethan stepped forward and grabbed her arm. I told you to stop. Didn't you hear me? His grip was tight, and Evelyn's expression changed. What do you want? She asked, taking a deep breath. Ethan looked at her coolly. Apologize to Vivian. Vivian's eyes lit up. Evelyn pointed at Vivian in disbelief. You want me to apologize to her? Yes. Ethan nodded firmly. Evelyn laughed. She laughed at herself, at how foolish she had been. Even after 3 years of his cold shoulder, she still held onto some fantasy about this man. With a slight tremor in her voice, Evelyn said, Impossible. Ethan's brow furrowed, his anger rising. Just then, Vivian's eyes darted around, and she suddenly said, Ethan, let it go. I'm in a good mood today, so I won't hold it against her. Ethan gave Evelyn a cool glance. Since Vivian is willing to let it go, then we'll leave it at that. Evelyn remained silent. So everything is decided by Vivian. In your eyes, I truly am worthless. Ethan, I have a jewelry design exhibition in a couple of days, but my assistant got sick and probably can't make it. She glanced pointedly at Evelyn. I heard that Evelyn, my dear, used to be an outstanding jewelry designer. Could I possibly ask her to help out as my assistant? Evelyn shook her head, about to say, in your dreams, but Ethan had already agreed. Fine. She can be your assistant. Then, Ethan looked at Evelyn seriously. You heard her. The day after tomorrow, you'll go to the exhibition with Vivian. Evelyn was so angry she had to laugh. Ethan, do you really think I'm going to help her? Ethan was silent for a moment, then said, Don't you miss jewelry design? After all these years, you must be itching to get back to it. She had to admit, Ethan always knew exactly how to push her buttons. After hearing that, Evelyn hesitated for a moment, then agreed. 2 days later, Evelyn found herself at a jewelry design exhibition called First Snow. Looking at the brilliant jewels on display, the heart that had been dormant for nearly 5 years stirred once more. This had once been her greatest love, something she had given up for Ethan, for her child. Now, it seemed it was time to take it back. As piece after piece was presented, Evelyn's gaze never wavered. When it was time for Vivian's piece, Evelyn walked onto the stage carrying a dazzling swan pendant. To Evelyn's professional eye, Vivian's work was at the bottom of the pack among the many entries. A look of disdain crossed her face. If Ethan hadn't been relentlessly promoting her for the past 3 years, how could Vivian possibly have her current status? Her distracting thoughts vanished the moment she stepped onto the stage, replaced by a professional demeanor. She carried the display case toward the exhibition stand. Just as she was about to reach it, she suddenly felt the red carpet slip under her feet. Panic flashed across Evelyn's face. She lost her footing and went tumbling toward the display stand. In the instant she fell, she saw Vivian standing at the end of the carpet, a strange, sinister smile on her face. A collective gasp rose from the crowd. Evelyn crashed directly onto the display stand, sending all the exhibition pieces, including Vivian's, smashing to the floor. Her forehead struck the corner of the stand, splitting open instantly. Blood began to flow. Everyone, from the designers to the guests, was stunned by the scene. Chaos quickly erupted. Staff members helped Evelyn to the side to treat the wound on her head. The designers whose works had been destroyed glared at Evelyn with undisguised hostility. Vivian stood to the side, her tone dripping with passive aggression. Oh, Evelyn, darling, I only said a few words to you. Was it really necessary to get so angry that you deliberately ruined the exhibition? Her eyes held a triumphant glint. It's one thing to break my peace, but did you have to destroy everyone else's work too? This is the culmination of all our hard work. Vivian's words struck a chord with all the designers present. Evelyn's face was grim. Vivian, you did this on purpose at some point. Ethan had also appeared at the exhibition. He walked up behind Vivian, his gaze cold as he looked at Evelyn, blood trickling from her forehead. The moment Evelyn saw Ethan, a wave of indignation washed over her. But when she met his icy stare, she fought to keep her composure. Facing the accusations of the numerous jewelry designers, Evelyn pushed herself to her feet and walked over to Vivian. She looked at Vivian calmly. "A moment ago, you pulled the carpet. I saw you." Vivian's face paled, and she was about to defend herself, but Ethan spoke for her first. "Vivian isn't that kind of person." A bitter look crossed Evelyn's face. "Ethan, it seems you know her very well." Ethan nodded calmly. "Of course." He then frowned at Evelyn. "You're so clumsy. Be more careful in the future." "Ethan, you believe her and not me?" Evelyn asked, a final sliver of hope in her heart. But all she received was Ethan's merciless indifference. He didn't even answer her question. But his attitude was crystal clear to everyone. Thanks to some gossips in the crowd, Evelyn's identity as Ethan's wife was revealed. Now, even more people were watching the drama unfold. Just then, the organizer of the jewelry exhibition appeared. "Evelyn." The organizer cried out in surprise upon seeing her. Evelyn looked up and saw a familiar face. "Leo." Evelyn hadn't expected to see Leo Ramsey here. Leo had been her senior at university and had always looked out for her. Noticing Evelyn's poor condition, Leo asked, "Evelyn, what are you doing at my exhibition? Trying to give me a surprise?" The staff around him quickly filled him in on what had just happened. Leo nodded slightly, his eyes scanning the room. He then addressed the crowd. "Everyone, I am truly sorry. As the organizer, I take full responsibility for what has happened. I will compensate all participating designers for the full value of their pieces." Leo's words carried weight. The crowd gradually dispersed, leaving only Ethan and Vivian. Leo acted as if he had just noticed Ethan. "Ethan, are you here with Evelyn? Is she really making a comeback?" Ethan shot Leo a cold look, then turned to Evelyn. "You two are still in contact." Evelyn frowned. What was he implying? "Since you're so eager to rekindle an old flame, I'll grant you your wish. Let's go to City Hall tomorrow and file for divorce." After saying his piece, Ethan took Vivian's arm and left. Leo watched them go, then asked with concern, "Evelyn, this?" Evelyn forced a smile. "I'm fine, Leo." Then, despite her injury, she walked away. Worried something might happen to her, Leo followed, taking her to the hospital before he left. After leaving the exhibition, Vivian was ecstatic. Ethan was finally going to divorce Evelyn. She had waited 3 long years for this day. "Ethan, let's go get something to eat," Vivian cooed, clinging to his arm. Ethan stiffly removed her hand and coldly tossed out, "I have work to do at the office. You can eat by yourself." Vivian froze, her face flushing with humiliation and anger. After a moment's thought, a cold smile spread across her face, and she went to find Evelyn. Learning that Leo had taken Evelyn to the hospital, Vivian went there as well. In the hospital room, Evelyn had stitches on her forehead. The moment she saw Vivian walk in, Evelyn ordered her out. "What are you doing here? You're not welcome. Get out." Vivian paid her no mind, smiling as she walked up to Evelyn and looked at the bandage on her forehead. Tusk, Evelyn, darling, how could you be so careless? What will you do if you're disfigured?" Evelyn sneered. "Vivian, you can drop the act. The only reason I fell is because of you, isn't it?" Vivian didn't pretend anymore either. She laughed, her head held high. "Evelyn, Ethan doesn't love you. What's the point of clinging to him for 3 years, refusing to divorce? That's between him and me. It has nothing to do with you, the other woman." Ever since Ethan had mentioned divorce, Evelyn had stopped suppressing her true feelings. Vivian's face paled, and she glared at Evelyn with hatred. "After Ethan divorces you, he's going to marry me immediately. Evelyn, you can't win against me. A couple of days ago was my birthday, and Ethan spent the whole night with me. Do you have any idea how happy we were that night? Ethan said I was 100 times better than you. Oh, right, if I remember correctly, that was your birthday too, wasn't it? Tusk, what a pity, spending your birthday all alone." With every word Vivian spoke, Evelyn's face grew a shade paler. By the end, her face was as white as a sheet. She took a deep breath, suppressing her rage. "Are you done? If you're done, then get out." Vivian left with a triumphant smirk. After she was gone, Evelyn lay on the hospital bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. It wasn't long before she was discharged. When she got home, Ethan hadn't returned. She cleaned the entire house until it was spotless. Then, she printed out the divorce papers herself. She didn't ask for a single penny, only for custody of Kyle. She waited at home for 2 hours before Ethan finally returned. Evelyn handed him the divorce papers. "I've already printed them out. If there are no issues, just sign them. We'll go finalize it tomorrow." Ethan was silent for a moment, then opened the document. After reading it, he looked up at Evelyn, his brow furrowed. "You don't want anything?" Evelyn nodded. "I only want custody of Kyle." Ethan looked at her deeply, and for a second Evelyn thought she saw guilt in his eyes. She laughed at herself. "Impossible. I must have been mistaken." "Fine," Ethan agreed. The next morning, they dropped Kyle off at preschool and then went to City Hall. The process was quick. In less than half an hour, they were outside again. Vivian was waiting for them at the entrance. The moment they came out, she went up and linked her arm with Ethan's. "Don't you worry, Evelyn. I'll take good care of Ethan from now on." Vivian smugly pulled Ethan into a car. Evelyn looked at the freshly issued divorce certificate in her hand. She no longer felt the urge to cry. Her tears had already run dry. That afternoon, after picking Kyle up from preschool, Evelyn headed to her mother's house. "Mommy, are we not going home?" Kyle asked curiously from her arms. Evelyn stroked his head. "We're not going back. How about we go to Grandma's house?" Kyle clapped his hands happily. Yay, I haven't been to Grandma's in a long time." When Evelyn arrived with Kyle at her childhood home, her mother, Susan Sterling, who was busy in the kitchen, was taken aback for a moment. But she didn't ask any questions. She happily hugged Kyle, then went back into the kitchen to make a few more of Evelyn's favorite dishes. After dinner, Evelyn turned on the TV for Kyle and went to help her mother with the dishes. In the kitchen, as Evelyn was washing the dishes, she suddenly stopped and said to her mother, "Mom, Ethan and I got a divorce." Susan's hands stilled, and she looked at her daughter with heartache. She sighed softly. "My child, as long as you don't regret it." Regret? Evelyn asked herself the question, but she had no answer. But the thought of Vivian and Ethan together made her nod. "Mom, I don't regret it." "Good. From now on, you and Kyle can live here with me." Susan was a woman of few words. She had always quietly supported Evelyn. 5 years ago, when she married Ethan, Susan had been overjoyed because she knew her daughter had truly found happiness. But starting 3 years ago, her daughter's smiles became rarer and rarer when she came home. Susan knew then that there was trouble in their marriage. Now that Evelyn and Ethan were divorced, Susan felt both heartache and a sense of relief. It was better this way than to be stuck in such a painful limbo. "Kyle is still so young. Have you told him?" Susan asked, but received no reply from Evelyn. "Evelyn?" Susan turned and saw Evelyn's face was deathly pale, blood trickling from her nose as she collapsed. Susan cried out in panic, rushing to catch her. "Mom, I'm fine." Evelyn's face was white as a sheet, her voice weak. Before she could say another word, she fainted. Evelyn, don't scare me." "Mommy," Evelyn's consciousness faded into darkness. When she woke up, she was in a hospital room. She felt thirsty and looked around, hearing voices outside her room. A doctor was speaking with her mother about her condition. "Doctor, could there be a mistake? How could it be leukemia?" Susan's voice was filled with agitation. The doctor tried to calm her. "Please, don't get too upset. Leukemia isn't untreatable these days, but the medical costs can be quite high." How could Susan not be upset? This was her only daughter. Leukemia? Hearing that word, Evelyn froze. After a long moment, a bitter smile crossed her lips. "God, do you really have it in for me this much?" Susan pushed the door open, her eyes red. Seeing Evelyn awake, she quickly wiped her tears. "Honey, you're awake." Evelyn managed a small smile. "Yeah, Mom, where's Kyle?" "I asked our neighbor, Mrs. Liu, to look after him," Susan said. After that, mother and daughter fell into silence. Evelyn broke the heavy quiet. "Mom, my illness?" Susan's heart leaped, and she forced a smile. "It's nothing serious. The doctor said you're just exhausted and need a few days of rest." "Mom, I heard everything." Susan froze, her mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. Tears instantly welled in her eyes. "Honey, it's okay. You're going to be okay. I'll go raise the money right now. The doctor said it can be cured. It can definitely be cured." Susan hugged Evelyn, sobbing. Evelyn's heart felt warm. She rested her head on her mother's shoulder and whispered, "Mom, thank you for everything you've done for me all these years." Susan's family was never wealthy. By borrowing from everyone she knew, she managed to scrape together $500,000. But it still wasn't enough for Evelyn's medical bills. Finding a suitable bone marrow match required being on a waiting list. If they wanted to jump the queue, they would have to pay more. This was another huge sum of money. Where could Susan possibly get it? She had already borrowed from every friend and relative and was still far short. Evelyn, don't worry. Mom will save you. Susan held Evelyn's hand, wiping away her tears. In just a few days, Evelyn's health had deteriorated rapidly. She had become visibly thinner. Mom, it's fate, let it be, Evelyn said weakly. Kyle is still young. We should save some money for his future. No, Susan cut her off emotionally. There has to be a way. Yes, there has to be a way. Suddenly, Susan thought of someone. She said quickly, Ethan Hawthorne. Ethan has money, I'll go to him. She immediately stood up to leave. Evelyn grabbed her mother's hand. Mom, don't go to him. Susan's face was flushed with anxiety. Evelyn held on tightly. Mom, I'm begging you, don't go to him. Oh, fine, Susan sighed heavily. Only after her mother promised not to go to Ethan did Evelyn let go. Susan paced back and forth in the hallway, her shoulders slumped, looking years older. Excuse me, is this Evelyn Sterling's room? After their last meeting, Leo Ramsey had gone to the hospital to visit Evelyn, but she had already been discharged. He searched everywhere for her, eventually finding Susan's house. A neighbor told him that Evelyn had been hospitalized, and after asking around, Leo found his way here. Susan looked at Leo, confused. And you are? Leo held up the fruit basket in his hand. Hello, ma'am. I'm a friend of Evelyn's. I came to see her. Susan nodded and opened the door to let him in. The moment Leo entered the room and saw the gaunt Evelyn, his expression changed. Leo hurried over and put down the fruit basket. He couldn't believe that in just a few days, Evelyn had become like this. Evelyn, what happened to you? Leo asked with concern. Evelyn was surprised to see him. She forced a smile. Leo, I'm fine. But from the way she looked, she was anything but fine. Leo didn't press further at the time, but after leaving the room, he asked Susan about it. With a long sigh, Susan told him the truth. What leukemia? Leo's face turned pale. But he quickly comforted Susan. Ma'am, leukemia is not a death sentence anymore. With a suitable bone marrow match, she can be saved. Susan gave a bitter smile. I know, the doctor said so, but we don't have the money. Leo said directly, Ma'am, I'll take care of it. With that, Leo hurried away. When he returned, he was with several doctors. Leo said to Susan, Ma'am, I've arranged for Evelyn to be transferred. The major hospitals abroad have a better success rate with this kind of surgery. I'd like to take her overseas for the operation. What do you think? Susan nodded without a second thought. Yes, as long as it can save Evelyn, we'll go anywhere. Don't worry, I'll pay you back for this money, even if I have to sell everything I own. Leo looked at Susan sincerely. Ma'am, Evelyn and I are good friends. There's no need to talk about money. Evelyn went abroad, following Leo to Europe for treatment. After her divorce from Ethan, Vivian started parading herself around as Ethan's woman, frequenting various high society events to show off her status. One day, Vivian went to Ethan's company and confidently walked into the CEO's office. Ethan, when are you going to marry me? Vivian cooed, clinging to Ethan. Ethan's face darkened, and he placed a file on the desk. Vivian, don't forget our agreement. Vivian's face turned pale. She quickly put on a smile. Ethan, don't you like me? You even divorced Evelyn for me. Get out. Ethan's eyes turned cold. His icy gaze made Vivian's heart skip a beat. But that was followed by immense humiliation and anger. Ethan, what do you mean? How am I not better than Evelyn? Didn't you say you would marry me? Ethan stood up and said, word by word, Vivian, I told you 3 years ago, this was just an act. Don't get too carried away. You'll get the compensation you're owed, not a penny less. I'll even double it. But don't entertain any unrealistic fantasies. Ethan's tone was firm, causing Vivian's once beautiful face to twist with rage. Ethan, I've waited 3 years. You're finally divorced from her, so why won't you marry me? Ethan looked at the slightly crazed Vivian and barked, go home and cool off. Vivian wanted to say more, but Ethan had already buried his head in his work, ignoring her completely. Anger churned in her chest, and Vivian's body trembled slightly. After a long while, she managed to force a smile. Then I won't disturb your work, Ethan. With that, Vivian left the office. Ethan didn't even look up. After finishing a document, he stood by the window, staring outside. He stood there for half an hour. Suddenly, his body swayed, and he fell to his knees. Ethan's face was deathly pale. He struggled to pull a medicine bottle from his pocket and pour the contents into his mouth. But his trembling hands sent the pills scattering across the floor. With great effort, Ethan picked up a single pill, put it in his mouth, and swallowed with difficulty. But the sharp pain in his heart nearly made him lose consciousness. After pressing a button under his desk, Ethan collapsed completely. When he woke up again, he was in a private hospital. A handsome doctor stood before him. "You're awake?" Dr. Liam Shawcross's eyes were filled with worry. Ethan spoke faintly. "How long was I out this time?" Liam checked the time. 2 days. Ethan gave a bitter smile. "It's getting longer and longer. I wonder when I'll fall asleep and never wake up." Liam urged him, "Ethan, get the chemo. There's still hope." Ethan looked seriously into Liam's eyes. He knew his best friend was looking out for him, but even with chemotherapy, was there really any hope? Ever since he was diagnosed with a congenital heart condition 3 years ago, Ethan knew that he would die sooner or later. Ethan smiled faintly. "Liam, without the chemo, how much time do I have left?" Liam was silent for a moment before answering, 2 years at most. "If it gets worse, maybe only a year." Ethan smiled. 2 more years? Kyle will be in elementary school by then. I wonder how she's doing." "You're still smiling," Liam was frustrated. "Ethan, why do you have to do this? If you had just told Evelyn the truth from the beginning, you wouldn't have had to force her away like this." Ethan's face darkened, and he shook his head. "Liam," before he could finish, a sharp pain shot through his heart. His neck stiffened, and he began to convulse violently. Liam's face changed drastically, and he shouted to the people outside. "Quick, get him to the operating room." "Ethan, you can't fall asleep. You bastard, wake up." The red light above the operating room flickered on, and the doors slammed shut. 1 year later. International Airport. Evelyn, without a trace of makeup, was dressed entirely in black. Pulling a suitcase with one hand and holding a handsome boy's hand with the other, she walked slowly out of the arrival's gate. "Evelyn, over here." Leo Ramsey was already waiting at the exit. Seeing her, he waved his arm vigorously. Evelyn quickened her pace, took off her black sunglasses, her face drawn and tired. "Leo, how is my mom?" Leo lowered his eyes and let out a long, heavy sigh. "Go and see her one last time." The hospital. Evelyn sat by the bed with her son, tightly holding her mother's hand, which was covered in needle marks. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I never gave you a comfortable life." Susan Sterling's gaunt cheeks managed to form a smile, a sight more painful than tears. "Having a daughter as wonderful as you has been my greatest happiness. After I'm gone, you have to take care of yourself and raise Kyle." Hearing this, the little boy couldn't help but let tears fall. "Grandma," Susan slowly raised her hand, wiping the tears from her daughter and grandson's faces. "Don't cry. As long as you're both okay, I can go in peace. Evelyn, Leo has been such a great help this past year. You must be grateful to him for saving your life, do you understand?" Evelyn nodded forcefully, choking back sobs. "Mom, don't worry." Susan gave her daughter one last loving smile. Her arms slowly fell, and her heavy eyelids closed. In the end, she couldn't escape the clutches of her illness. At that moment, Evelyn could no longer contain her grief. She broke down, tears streaming down her face. Susan's funeral arrangements were simple. No friends or relatives were invited. A small wake was held, and she was cremated on the 3rd day, according to tradition. "Leo, Kyle is still young. I can handle things at the funeral home myself. Could you watch him for a few days?" Evelyn, her eyes red and swollen, entrusted her son to Leo. She didn't want her young son to witness the sorrow of final goodbyes. The child had already been through so much with her, and a wave of guilt washed over her. Leo patted her shoulder. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of Kyle. I've already spoken with the director of the funeral home. He'll help you if you need anything." Evelyn was deeply grateful. Those who came to pay their respects were distant relatives. They offered a few words of comfort and then quickly left. A few friends came by to sit with her for a while, but they too had to get back to their own busy lives. Evening. The funeral hall was empty except for Evelyn. She gazed at her mother's photograph and wept. Thinking of how her mother had spent her entire life toiling for her, Evelyn couldn't stop the tears. She cried herself into a restless sleep. The The sound of footsteps broke the dead silence. Evelyn opened her weary eyes and saw a pale-faced Ethan Hawthorne. "What are you doing here?" Evelyn was instantly awake, standing up in shock as she stared at the man in the doorway. Ethan's thin lips were pressed into a straight line, his chiseled face showing a hint of remorse. His voice was low. "I came to pay my respects to your mother." He should have called her Mom, but after hesitating, he couldn't bring himself to say it. He and Evelyn were divorced. It had been a long time, and Ethan looked much thinner. His once sharp features were even more defined, making him look gaunt. Evelyn's heart was a tangle of emotions, like a jar of mixed grains overturned, an indescribable feeling. She wanted to ask, "Ethan, are you okay?" But the words died on her lips. In what capacity could she show him concern? Whether Ethan was thinner or fatter, better or worse, it had nothing to do with her anymore. They had gone from being the closest of partners to strangers with nothing to say to each other. The desolation in her heart, combined with the pain of losing her mother, made her feel dizzy. Her head grew heavy, and she nearly collapsed. A pair of long, slender hands caught her teetering body. Evelyn opened her eyes to meet Ethan's complicated gaze. Are you okay?" Ethan's face was as cold as ice, but a flicker of worry appeared in his eyes. Evelyn slowly sat down, trying to calm her racing heart. "I'm fine, thank you." Silence fell again. Ethan had paid his respects and should have left, but seeing Evelyn all alone and lost in the funeral hall, he felt uneasy. If anything happened to Evelyn, Ethan would never be able to forgive himself. He stood silently beside her, keeping her company without a word. The air felt frozen. You could have heard a pin drop. Suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps came from outside, and Leo Ramsey rushed in. The moment he entered, he saw Ethan. "What are you doing here?" Leo's anger flared up instantly. Ethan glanced at Evelyn and said coldly, "I came to see your mother off." Leo looked at him suspiciously, as if he couldn't believe this man had such a conscience. "You should go. You're not needed here." Leo took 2 large strides forward. He positioned his body to block Evelyn from Ethan's view. "Evelyn doesn't want to see you," Leo added, the words like a knife. Ethan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He clutched his heart, his face pale and bloodless, his voice even hoarser. "Evelyn, I'm leaving. You have to take care of yourself." If he stayed any longer, he was afraid he would have a heart attack, and Evelyn would discover the secret he had hidden for years. Ethan couldn't risk it. He needed Evelyn to resent him completely so she could start a new life. "Evelyn doesn't want to talk to you," Leo glared at him, impatiently telling him to leave. Ethan's steps were heavy. He took a few paces, then looked back, his gaze lingering on the desolate Evelyn. Finally, with great reluctance, he left the funeral hall. He desperately wanted to hold her, to pat her shoulder, to dry her tears and comfort her broken heart. But he no longer had the right. After Ethan left, Evelyn immediately asked, "Leo, why are you here? Where's Kyle?" Leo reined in his anger and sat down beside her, comforting her. "Don't worry, Kyle is asleep. The nanny at home is watching him. I was worried about you being here all alone at night, so I came to stay with you. I'll go back to take care of Kyle in the morning." Evelyn managed a grateful smile. She trusted Leo. He was always careful and meticulous. Nothing would go wrong. The next day, her mother's funeral ceremony concluded smoothly. Evelyn knelt before the gravestone, arranged the fruit and fresh flowers, and bowed 3 times. "Mom, don't worry. Kyle and I will work hard and live a good life, I promise." Though she had lost her mother, Evelyn still had her son, and she had Leo, who cared for her and helped her. She still owed him a debt of life, saving gratitude that she had yet to repay. Evelyn told herself she couldn't fall apart, couldn't let herself be crushed. She had to start a new life as soon as possible. The news of Evelyn's return to the country soon reached Vivian Shaw. She had noticed that Ethan had been absent-minded lately, his actions distracted, as if he had something heavy on his mind. Suspicious, Vivian had people investigate. She finally learned that Evelyn's mother had passed away, that she had returned from abroad, and had settled down. This news was a bolt from the blue, shattering Vivian's dreams. "You bitch, how dare you come back to fight me for my man, I'll destroy you." Vivian gritted her teeth in anger, cursing Evelyn over and over in her mind, wishing she could tear her to pieces. A coffee shop. Unable to contain the burning rage within her, Vivian called Evelyn to meet. "How did you know I was back? How did you get my number?" Evelyn's face was cold as she sat across from her, her tone icy. Towards this woman, Evelyn felt nothing but disgust and contempt. Vivian raised an arched eyebrow, her heavily made-up face exuding arrogance. "I'm the wife of the CEO of Hawthorne Jewelry Group, Ethan's wife. Of course I have my ways." Evelyn snorted in disdain. "Are you married? Did you have a wedding? Do you have a marriage license?" The barrage of questions immediately silenced Vivian. It was like a bucket of cold water poured over her head, extinguishing her arrogant flames. Evelyn smirked. "Since you have none of that, you're at best one of Ethan's many playthings, a mistress who can't be seen in the light of day. Or maybe in Ethan's heart, you don't even count as a mistress, just something to be used and discarded like a public bus." These words were devastating, striking Vivian right in the heart. The contempt in Evelyn's eyes made her attitude clear. She didn't see Vivian as a threat at all. You're just jealous that I'm by Ethan's side, jealous, that I'm his woman, jealous that he divorced you for me, that he abandoned you." Vivian screamed like a madwoman, her mind a chaotic mess. She had completely lost her composure, shouting like a fishwife. But Evelyn was unfazed. She shrugged, her hands spread wide. "So what? Ethan won't marry you. He won't get married to you. But I'm different. I was the woman he legally married. Even though we're divorced, he gave me a wedding, and we have our son. That's the best proof of what we had." Splash. Vivian threw a cup of coffee directly in Evelyn's face. She had completely lost it, her hands trembling as she clutched the coffee cup, her lungs feeling like they would explode. "Shut your filthy mouth. I will make Ethan marry me. I'll let the whole world see our grand wedding, and I'll crush you under my feet." Vivian was consumed by a crazed jealousy. All these years, despite being constantly by Ethan's side, clinging to him day after day, she knew very well that his feelings for her were cold. It was all a transaction, an act. Evelyn's return and Ethan's subsequent distraction made Vivian even more frantic. A slap landed on Vivian's face. Evelyn had hit her back without hesitation. "Don't ever bother me again. Trash like you isn't worthy of being compared to me." Evelyn threw out the harsh words, then turned, picked up her bag, and walked away with her head held high. The fight in the coffee shop was secretly filmed by other customers and posted on a short-form video platform. Overnight, the news of two young women in a physical altercation became a trending topic on major media outlets. Netizens began to dig into their identities, discovering that the one who started the fight was Vivian Shaw, a designer at Hawthorne Jewelry Group and also the rumored girlfriend of CEO Ethan Hawthorne. People speculated that it was a love triangle, with opinions flying everywhere. Maybe it's a showdown between the wife and the mistress, the classic two women fighting over one man scenario. This rumored girlfriend hasn't gotten married after all these years. Maybe it really is just a rumor, and Ethan doesn't love her at all. The other woman is also in the same industry. I remember seeing her at a jewelry design competition once. Maybe it was a conflict of interest at work that led to the fight. Ethan saw the comments on the news page and was furious. He called Vivian and demanded she come to his office immediately, where he berated her. "What is wrong with you? Evelyn's return has nothing to do with me. Her mother just passed away. She's already grieving. How could you have the heart to bother her?" Vivian held her head high, arguing defiantly. "So what if I hit her? Does it hurt you? You and Evelyn are divorced. You're my man now. You are absolutely not to have any contact with Evelyn, or I won't let her off the hook." Ethan's brow furrowed, his handsome face dark and stormy. He looked down at Vivian and said coldly, "Have you forgotten our deal? You and I were just acting. When this play is over, you take your money and go. Your life has nothing to do with me." His decisive tone and aloof expression made him seem like a god, to be admired from afar but never touched. Vivian wouldn't back down. She raised her face, full of resentment, and looked straight into Ethan's cold eyes. "What's so wrong with me? How am I not as good as Evelyn? Why have you been obsessed with her for so many years? Do you just ignore my love?" A disdainful snort escaped Ethan's nose. You think you can compare to her? This is my final warning. Disappear from Evelyn's world. And don't harbor any unrealistic fantasies. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." Ethan threw out the warning and left in a rage. Vivian stared at his resolute back, a storm of emotions, indignation, frustration, resentment sweeping over her, nearly consuming her. "It was Evelyn who came back first, who shattered our peaceful life. Why is he taking his anger out on me? She wouldn't accept it, wouldn't admit defeat. Evelyn Sterling, you just wait. I will not let you go. Ethan can't protect you forever. I'll find a chance to destroy you. Ethan is mine. He will always be mine. He can only be mine. Anyone who dares to fight me for him is destined to die. The man I can't have, no one else can have either, Vivian muttered over and over, her eyes burning with a hateful light. Only when you're dead will Ethan finally give up. I will marry him, you'll see. Her sanity had fractured, and a neurotic smile slowly spread across her face. After a month of adjustment, Evelyn's mental state had improved significantly. Her surgery abroad had been very successful, and her body was no longer as weak as before. She could live and work normally without any issues. Besides taking care of Kyle, Evelyn would read books on jewelry design. It was the profession she loved most. Now, having lost her marriage, her focus shifted from her family, giving her more energy to do things she enjoyed. Leo noticed her passion. Evelyn, since you have the talent and the skill, why not re-enter the jewelry industry? I believe the jewelry you design will become masterpieces in this field. Evelyn looked up, a hint of surprise in her shining eyes. Leo, can I really? After all, she had been out of the professional world for many years, and she was a little worried. Leo nodded with great certainty, giving her a big smile. Of course, no problem. I've always been in the jewelry business, so I know the current market well. With your level of skill, you're more professional than many working designers. Evelyn, taking the first step is always the hardest. But if you persevere, you'll find a whole new world waiting for you. Evelyn was encouraged and felt a surge of joy. She thought of her mother's dying wish for her to be happy. She thought about Kyle growing up and all the expenses that would come with it. Evelyn wanted to be a mother her son could be proud of, to put her mother in heaven at ease. So, she resolved to make a comeback. Okay, Leo, I'll follow your lead. After careful consideration, Leo decided to create an opportunity for Evelyn to become an instant sensation. So, he personally organized a large-scale jewelry exhibition. For this event, Leo invited top experts in the jewelry industry, leading gemologists, and a group of high-spending elite families. Evelyn began to focus on preparing her entry. She researched extensively and drew countless drafts. Finally, a song called Phoenix Courtship sparked her inspiration. She decided to create a necklace about love. The theme was, although love in this world is not always perfect, we must stay true to our hearts and move forward with courage. Evelyn's final piece, born from her heart and soul, was exquisite. The jewelry exhibition went off without a hitch. One by one, designers showcased their work and concepts. The venue was bustling, and experts offered their various opinions, seeing a brilliant future for the industry. Evelyn was the last to present. Leo had intentionally scheduled her for the grand finale, capturing everyone's undivided attention. A Phoenix Courtship necklace was presented to the audience. The brilliant jewels glittered like a sky full of stars, radiating a dazzling light. Evelyn, dressed in a magnificent gown, stood on the stage, smiling as she explained her design inspiration and creative techniques. The audience erupted in thunderous applause. One of the experts recognized Evelyn. You're the winner of the Best New Designer award from 5 years ago, aren't you? I was a judge for that competition. You left a deep impression on me. Evelyn gracefully acknowledged it. Yes, that was me. I later temporarily left the industry for family reasons. Now, I am making a comeback and will devote myself to my career. I hope to learn from all of you. When the experts heard that the designer of Phoenix Courtship was the once famous prodigy of the jewelry world, hailed as the most talented miracle master, they were ecstatic. Everyone was buzzing, eager to recruit such an exceptional talent. Miss Sterling, you can come work for our company. We offer a base salary plus commission. You'll get a 50-50 split on the sales of your designs. Miss Sterling, please come work for our group. I can offer you shares and year-end dividends. We are willing to hire you at a high price and will also provide a company car for your convenience. Faced with all the generous offers and tempting conditions, Evelyn maintained her smile and bowed politely. Thank you all for your kind offers. Then, she gracefully walked over to Leo Ramsey's side, looking at his handsome face with gratitude in her eyes. She spoke slowly, her voice melodious. Leo is my senior from university. We've known each other for many years, and he has helped me immensely. So, I'm very sorry, but I cannot join any other company. I will be staying at my senior's company to design the best pieces, and I welcome all of you to discuss collaborations. Evelyn wanted to use her abilities to help Leo earn more money and repay him for saving her life. After the exhibition, the most stunning piece, Phoenix Courtship, instantly became a favorite in the fashion world. Many manufacturers tried to imitate it, striving to create products like it. Evelyn's name became famous overnight in the jewelry industry. Everyone praised her talent and admired her loyalty. After being away from the industry for so many years, she could still produce such an exquisite piece on her first try. Faced with high salaries and lavish benefits, she chose to stay with the senior to whom she was indebted, a testament to her character. Such a wonderful woman became a role model for designers in the jewelry world. The flood of news reached Vivian Shaw's eyes, becoming an unbearable sight. She wanted to tear up all the reporters' articles so they could never praise Evelyn again. Vivian could not tolerate another designer, especially Evelyn, climbing above her. She would do whatever it took to destroy everything Evelyn had and drag her down to the bottom. So, Vivian paid a high price to hire a hacker to break into Evelyn's computer and steal the design drafts for her Phoenix Courtship piece. Evelyn simply thought her computer had a virus, so she reformatted it and didn't think much of it. The next day, when Evelyn saw someone expose that Phoenix Courtship was suspected of plagiarism, she realized the severity of the situation. The person who posted the allegation was Vivian Shaw. Everyone, Phoenix Courtship is a work I poured my heart and soul into, only to have it plagiarized after Evelyn returned to the country. She came to my house, hoping I would help her make a comeback. I let my guard down for a moment, and she secretly took my original design drafts. The last time at the coffee shop, I confronted her about her theft, which led to our argument. It was not a love triangle as rumored. Now, Evelyn has dared to steal my work, profit from it, and even enter it into an exhibition. I can no longer swallow this injustice and have decided to expose her crimes. My demands are simple. Evelyn must publicly apologize, withdraw from the jewelry industry forever, and return all income generated from the Phoenix Courtship piece. The post caused a massive uproar online as soon as it was published. Within an hour, it had been shared and commented on over 100,000 times. The public, always swayed by the latest trend, turned against Evelyn. Just days ago, they had been praising her as the best designer, the pride of the jewelry industry, a beautiful and kind-hearted woman. Now that the plagiarism scandal had broken, all the praise vanished, replaced by a flood of vitriol. Plagiarism is shameful, theft is despicable. Evelyn should be blacklisted. Stealing someone else's hard work deserves no sympathy. I knew it. You can't just leave the industry for years and suddenly become a top designer. It was all a sham. How embarrassing. Why couldn't she just work honestly? She had to go and ruin everything. How could she have the nerve to show her face at an exhibition? The insults were like a slap in the face, wiping away all the glory Evelyn had just earned. When Ethan Hawthorne found out, he was furious. He immediately contacted all the news media and had them delete all negative content about Evelyn. As the head of Hawthorne Jewelry Group, Ethan's power was immense. The media didn't dare to disobey him. The news about Evelyn online gradually subsided. After suppressing the negative press, Ethan confronted Vivian. I warned you not to go after her. You will apologize immediately, admit your mistake, and issue a statement to clear Evelyn's name. Vivian was stunned, her face a mask of disbelief. Her dry lips parted, and she spoke in a hoarse voice. Ethan, what are you talking about? Make me apologize? Evelyn is the one who did something wrong. Why should I be the one to admit fault? Ethan had no patience for her act, a look of disgust on his handsome face. Your relationship with Evelyn is like fire and water. She would never willingly come to you to look at design drafts. I know her abilities very well. Phoenix Courtship is her own work. I don't care how you got your hands on the manuscript, but you will not frame Evelyn. I absolutely forbid it. Ethan rarely spoke at such length. He clutched his chest as a piercing pain shot through him. He had no time to argue with Vivian. I'll have my assistant write it up. You just copy it, Ethan said coldly, his brow furrowed. Vivian refused to back down. She looked at Ethan's dark face, devoid of any tenderness towards her. An unprecedented rage spread through her. Vivian felt consumed by jealousy, a fire rising from her feet to the top of her head. She violently swept everything off the desk. Files scattered, and a water glass shattered against the cold tile floor. Ethan Hawthorne, don't think that just because I love you, you can trample on my dignity. I will never let Evelyn go. You can't control me. With that, Vivian grabbed her bag and turned to leave. Wait, Ethan raised his hand slightly. His assistant understood and quickly blocked the door. Vivian lifted her chin arrogantly, mistakenly thinking her outburst had intimidated Ethan. But reality was far from her fantasy. Ethan's voice was ice cold, without a trace of warmth. Vivian, you can leave, but first you will post that apology. After that, you can go wherever you want. Vivian's mind exploded. Her sanity shattered once again. She couldn't believe that even now, Ethan was still demanding an apology, all for Evelyn. Vivian couldn't swallow this humiliation. Her empty gaze slowly lost focus, and she walked step by step until she was in front of Ethan. Her eyes were resolute as she choked out, "Ethan, after all these years, have you ever loved me?" Ethan didn't answer, his face still a cold, hard mask. Vivian was nearly hysterical, screaming, "Ethan, what do I lack compared to Evelyn? Tell me I've loved you for so many years. Have you really never loved me? Not even for a single day?" She couldn't accept it, couldn't believe it. She had given him all her love, why couldn't he see her worth? Vivian, from the beginning, this was just an act. "I told you, take the money and leave. Don't expect anything else." Ethan's attitude remained frigid, his handsome face like a sculpture, his gaze towards her devoid of warmth. To him, she was like a stranger in a business arrangement. He had never let her into his heart, not even for a second. Vivian's world completely collapsed. Her mind was in chaos, and she was on the verge of a complete breakdown. She let out a few crazed laughs, tears of resentment streaming down her face. "Fine, so that's your answer, Ethan Hawthorne. Evelyn Sterling, you want to be together. And leave me to suffer alone?" In your dreams, Ethan watched her manic state without a shred of pity, saying coldly, "Write the apology, and we'll pretend today never happened. I won't hold you responsible." Vivian laughed hysterically. She wiped the tears and snot from her face with her sleeve. "Ethan Hawthorne, from this day forward, I will no longer be your rumored girlfriend, and I won't act with you anymore. I don't want the money. You can't control me ever again." After spitting out the vicious words, Vivian stormed out of the office, consumed by rage. She was like an enraged tigress, having completely lost her reason, her mind filled with hatred that devoured her thoughts. That night, Vivian posted a statement online. "Everyone, after careful consideration, I have decided to tell the truth. Evelyn Sterling, who has been pretending to be a single, beautiful designer, has a past marriage. Her ex-husband is none other than the head of Hawthorne Jewelry Group, my rumored boyfriend, Ethan Hawthorne. Unfortunately, Evelyn didn't know how to cherish such a good man. She had an affair with her university senior, Leo Ramsey, and was caught in bed by her husband, Ethan. After the divorce, Evelyn went abroad to escape the gossip. Now that the storm has passed, she wants to come back and cash in. During Ethan's most difficult times, I was the one who quietly stood by his side, never leaving him. Today, at the risk of being criticized, I am exposing Evelyn's ugly truth. Consider it revenge for Ethan, a way to vent his anger." This post sparked an even bigger discussion than the last one. Netizens were shocked. No one had expected that Evelyn and Ethan were once married. Even more shocking, Evelyn had an affair. With Leo Ramsey? The public couldn't tolerate such behavior, and the condemnation grew fiercer. In just a few days, Evelyn went from being a celebrated star to a pariah, hunted by public opinion. The drastic fall from grace left her in a no-win situation. Even Leo was implicated, becoming the target of gossip and scorn. Just when it seemed the situation was hopeless, Evelyn never expected that in her moment of crisis, Ethan Hawthorne would personally step forward to clear up the misunderstanding, even holding a press conference to explain the truth. Evelyn was curled up on her sofa, watching the news report on television. On the screen, Ethan was as handsome as ever. His sharp features, refined manners, every move was elegant and captivating. Evelyn and I had an amicable divorce. There was no affair, no third party involved. We were together for a long time, and our feelings simply faded. We let each other go to find our own freedom. As for Vivian Shaw's slander, I have already prepared the materials to submit to the court. I will sue her for her malicious actions and make her pay the price. I hope everyone can judge right from wrong rationally and not be misled by a slanderer." Facing the reporter's aggressive questions, Ethan answered fluently. He had taken the initiative to clarify the truth, dismantling all of Vivian's schemes. With Ethan himself explaining the situation and absolving Evelyn of any blame, the reporters had no story to sensationalize, no false reports to write. The public fussed for another couple of days, then quickly forgot the matter as their attention was drawn to other trending topics. With the constant flood of news online, no one held onto a single piece of gossip for long. Evelyn had weathered the storm. She was grateful for Ethan's defense of her and took the initiative to invite him out for a meal. They chose a corner coffee shop, the one they used to frequent when they were dating. Now the shop was still there, but the relationship between them was completely different. "Ethan, thank you, I couldn't have gotten through this without your help." Evelyn's gratitude was sincere, each word clear and pleasant to the ear. Ethan's lips curved into a handsome smile. "Don't mention it. This whole thing between you and Vivian started because of me. It was my responsibility to resolve it." He hadn't spoken so gently in a very long time. Evelyn was momentarily stunned, her gaze fixed on the man before her, unable to look away. After a long silence, Evelyn sighed, lamenting how things had changed. She spoke softly. "Ethan, I hope you'll be happy. I don't resent you anymore, I truly mean it. No matter how much pain there had been in the past, at this moment, with Ethan willing to help her, their old grievances were wiped clean." Ethan also gazed at the woman before him. It had been a while, but she was still so beautiful. "Evelyn, you must find your happiness." This had been Ethan's wish for many years, and it had never changed. Evelyn nodded. "I will." Silence fell again. Evelyn finished her coffee and stood up to leave. She had only taken 2 steps. When she heard a dull thud from behind her, a loud crash like something heavy hitting the floor. Evelyn froze, turning back to see Ethan's face had turned deathly pale, like a translucent sheet of paper. He had collapsed on the floor, his hands clutching his chest, gasping for air. "Ethan, Ethan, what's wrong?" Evelyn rushed to his side, calling his name loudly. However, Ethan's eyes were tightly shut, his long, thick eyelashes still, his heart seemingly having stopped. He was unconscious. Evelyn's face was filled with panic as her trembling hands dialed for an ambulance. She prayed over and over in her heart, "Please be okay, Ethan. Whatever happens, please, you have to wake up the hospital. Intensive care unit." Ethan lay in the sterile white room, an IV drip feeding into the back of his hand. His lips were frighteningly pale, completely devoid of color. Evelyn stood at the doorway, her face a mask of shock as she looked at his frail form, tears streaming down her face. Ethan's attending physician, Dr. Liam Shawcross, walked in slowly, his steps heavy. His expression was grim. When he saw Evelyn, he let out a long sigh. "I never thought the day would come when Ethan would have an attack in front of you." Evelyn was stunned. "What does that mean? Does he have these attacks often?" Liam nodded, a look of helplessness on his face. He opened his mouth but hesitated. Evelyn was incredibly anxious. She clenched her fists, her palms slick with cold sweat. She was worried and scared, her eyes fixed on Liam, pressing him. "What's going on? What's wrong with Ethan?" At this point, what more is there to hide? Liam hesitated, but he couldn't bear to see Ethan suffer like this any longer. He sighed again and explained slowly, "Evelyn, the truth is, for the past few years, Ethan has never stopped loving you. He never liked Vivian. Every second he spent with her was just an act." Evelyn was bewildered, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. Why was he acting? Liam's face was heavy, his expression dark. "Ethan has a heart condition, a congenital heart disease that can't be cured. 3 years ago, he was diagnosed with this terminal illness. He didn't want to be a burden to you." Evelyn's mind exploded. "He's sick. He's been sick all this time, with a terminal illness." Evelyn couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her eyes widened in shock, and she felt a suffocating sensation. Her nerves were frayed as she listened to Liam continue. "Ethan didn't want you to end up a widow. He knew how much you loved him. If he told you the truth, he knew you would stay by his side without a second thought. So, Ethan came up with a cruel plan. He contacted Vivian, made a deal with her for money, and pretended to fall in love with someone else, all to make you give up on him completely." Evelyn's tears fell again. This truth was too brutal, like a swarm of ants devouring her heart, piece by piece. Liam laid out the entire harsh reality. After the divorce, you would be free to start a new life, to find new love. His voice broke. Ethan even wrote a will. When he dies, half of his estate will go to you, and the other half to your son. He planned for your future in every way, but he couldn't save himself. Evelyn was utterly shattered. Her body went limp, her legs trembling. She raised a cool hand and took Ethan's cold one in hers. Liam looked at the tragic couple, his eyes moist. He shook his head helplessly. "Evelyn, when he wakes up, you two should talk." With that, Liam left the room, leaving Evelyn alone in the quiet space. She sat on the edge of the bed, stroking Ethan's face, tears falling silently. "Ethan, why did it have to be this way? I would rather you had betrayed me, rather you didn't love me, than for you to be so sick. Even if you were really with Vivian, it wouldn't have mattered. As long as you were healthy and happy, that's all I would have wanted." Evelyn didn't close her eyes for a whole day and night. She sat by Ethan's bed in silence. This was the man she had loved for 10 years, the husband she had wanted to spend her life with. He was also the one who had hurt her the most, the one who had pushed her into despair time and time again. And now, she found out he was terminally ill, congenital heart failure and late-stage cancer. Incurable. Just waiting for the end. Evelyn's emotions were a tangled mess of heartache, anger, and sorrow. A mix of feelings swirled in her heart, forming 1,000 unspoken words. The next evening, Ethan slowly opened his eyes. A faint touch of color returned to his pale face. He stared at the white ceiling, the IV drip slowly feeding into his body. "Evelyn?" Ethan saw the woman beside him, so tired she could barely keep her eyes open, her head nodding off as she rested her chin on her hand. A wave of sorrow washed over him. He suppressed the urge to cry, moved his arm, and softly called her name. "Wake up!" The moment Evelyn opened her eyes and saw Ethan's haggard face, she could no longer hold back her grief. Tears flowed like an open faucet. All her suppressed emotions came pouring out, each word a painful needle prick. "Ethan, why did you lie to me? You never liked Vivian, you never fell in love with someone else. You never betrayed me. If you had just told me the truth, we could have faced it together. Why did you have to find Vivian, to fake a betrayal and divorce me? Did you have that little faith in me? After more than a decade together, did you really think I would leave you just because you got sick?" Ethan's lips twisted into a bitter, helpless smile. "If you would have really left me, that would have been exactly what I wanted. I wouldn't have had to go through the trouble of hiring Vivian to act. It's precisely because I knew you wouldn't be able to let go of our years together, that you wouldn't abandon me, that I had to drive you away, force you to divorce me, to make you forget me completely." Evelyn grabbed a tissue, wiped her tears, and took a shaky breath. "Ethan, I thought about it all night yesterday. Everything you did for me. Before, I didn't know the truth. I resented you, I blamed you, I hated you. But now that I know, I can't just stand by and watch you die. I will take care of you." These were her true feelings. She had never given up on their love, never forgotten it. To Evelyn, Ethan would always be Kyle's father, an irreplaceable person buried deep in her heart. Hearing her sincere words, Ethan showed no sign of happiness. "I don't need you to take care of me. The hospital has nurses. Besides, my illness is incurable. Don't waste your time on me." Ethan's rejection was cold, leaving no room for argument. Evelyn was taken aback, her voice a mix of anger and reproach. "You're always so stubborn, always making decisions on your own." Ethan turned his head away, avoiding her gaze, refusing to argue. He couldn't be a burden to her. Otherwise, all his efforts would have been for nothing. Leo Ramsey is a good man, someone you can entrust your life to. You two are a good match. We've been divorced for a while now. You should find someone new. Ethan suppressed the reluctance and pain in his heart, feigning indifference to push Evelyn's kindness away. Evelyn had been imagining that if Ethan asked her to remarry, she would agree for Kyle's sake. But it was not to be. Her simple desire to be near him was met with a heartless rejection. "Evelyn, you don't need to pity me. The debt I owe you in this life can only be repaid by the inheritance I leave behind after I'm gone." Ethan's voice was chilling, like a bucket of icy water from hell poured over her head, freezing her to the core. Inheritance? Wealth. All the money in the world couldn't compare to Ethan's life. She was angry now, her tone thick with accusation. "Even now, you're still pushing me away. Fine, Ethan, be stubborn, let's see how long you can keep it up. Just as they were arguing, Leo Ramsey arrived at the hospital. Leo! Evelyn was surprised to see him. She waved a hand in greeting. What are you doing here? Leo walked over to the bed, his long legs carrying him swiftly. He first glanced at the terminally ill Ethan. Then, he noticed the sorrow on Evelyn's face. Her swollen eyes, her red nose, it was clear she had just been crying. A surge of anger rose in Leo. He hurried forward and steadied the weak Evelyn. I went to take Kyle home and found no one there. I saw your social media post from yesterday and found the coffee shop where you met Ethan. The waiter told me the man you were with collapsed and was taken away by an ambulance. So I quickly took Kyle back to my place, left him with the nanny, and rushed over to get you. His voice was thick with worry, his bright eyes never leaving Evelyn's face. Leo's anxious demeanor was like that of a devoted husband concerned for his wife. The sight was a dagger in Ethan's heart. Evelyn, you should go with him. I have nurses to take care of me. I don't need you here, Ethan said, forcing himself to dismiss them, swallowing the jealousy that was eating him alive. Evelyn hesitated, her worried gaze on Ethan. The thought of him facing his illness all alone was unbearable. Tomorrow I'll come see you. Before the words could leave her lips, Ethan cut her off coldly. If my checkup tomorrow morning is fine, I'm checking out in the afternoon. I have a ton of work waiting for me at the office. I don't have time to waste on treatment besides. It's not like it can be cured anyway. The last few words were laced with an unspoken sadness. Evelyn's eyes reddened again, the emotions she had just suppressed surging back. Leo felt her tremble and held her arm firmly, carefully supporting her. His voice was as gentle as water. Evelyn, let's go. Ethan needs to rest. We shouldn't disturb him. With that, Leo began to guide Evelyn out, not giving her a chance to argue further. Evelyn, already weak from her own recent surgery and now hit with the blow of Ethan's illness, was like a kite with a broken string, ready to fall at any moment. Her haggard appearance was pitiful. She looked as fragile as a piece of paper. She had no energy to argue with Ethan and quietly let Leo lead her out of the room. As they stepped out, they came face to face with Liam. Evelyn, you're leaving? Liam asked, surprised. Evelyn nodded, her eyes full of tears. Dr. Shawcross, please take care of Ethan. Liam opened his mouth to ask more, but Leo didn't slow down, instead supporting Evelyn and walking even faster. Liam watched them leave together, his brow furrowed. He pushed open the door. He saw Ethan lying in bed, sullen, his face ashen. Why didn't you ask her to stay? You obviously love her. You should have her by your side. Liam removed the IV bottle and bent down to take out Ethan's needle. Stay in the hospital for a while longer. Get the chemo. Ethan's pale lips pressed into a thin line. After a 3-second silence, he said coldly, I'm checking out tomorrow. Liam was stunned. He put the medicine bottle aside and looked at Ethan's resolute expression. In your condition, if you don't start treatment, you'll only have a few months left. Ethan's eyelids drooped, his long lashes hiding the sorrow in his eyes. He let out a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. That's fine. A few months is enough. When I'm gone, I'll leave the company to Evelyn and Kyle. It'll be something for them to rely on. Liam sighed heavily and sat down, his expression a mix of anger and frustration. Ethan, are you really going to let her go to another man? It's obvious that Guy likes her. You better think this through. Are you just going to stand by and watch the woman you love fall into someone else's arms? Can you bear that kind of pain? Are you sure you're not going to fight for her? You're just going to let her and that guy get together, get married, and have kids? Liam was beside himself with worry for Ethan. Another dead silence. Ethan had thought about all these questions. He had carefully considered Evelyn's future. Leo is a good man. He won't mistreat her. Ethan finally spoke, his voice filled with a deep sadness. He raised a hand to his gaunt face. I can't give her a happy life. Even with chemo, with all the treatments, it would only extend my life by a few years at most. It can't save me. In the end, Evelyn would only suffer more. Rather than make her endure that kind of final parting, it's better to make a clean break now and let her pursue her own happiness. Ethan's expression was resolute, as if he had finally made up his mind after long and careful thought. Liam couldn't argue with him. For years, Ethan had always been this stubborn, domineering, and cold. All his tenderness was reserved for Evelyn alone. The next day, Evelyn brought Kyle to the hospital. "Daddy," Kyle threw himself into Ethan's arms, rubbing his face against his cheek affectionately. "My good boy, Daddy missed you so much." When he was with Kyle, Ethan was always a loving father. Even now, racked with pain, he still had to hold his son and play for a while. This time, Evelyn's face was not tear-stained. She wore elegant makeup and a beautiful dress, presenting her best self to Ethan. Even if, in the days to come, Ethan pushed her away and treated her coldly, Evelyn had made up her mind. She would stay by his side, unwavering, until the very end, creating perfect memories for him. She wanted Ethan to know that there were still two people in this world who loved him most, who would forever remember him. After the three of them had breakfast in the hospital room, Liam came in and handed Ethan his discharge papers. "As a doctor, my advice is still to be admitted as soon as possible and start treatment," Liam urged him earnestly. Ethan shot him an impatient glare and gestured with his chin towards the playing Kyle. "Don't say such things in front of the child." Liam opened his mouth, but said nothing more. Sensing the awkwardness, Evelyn changed the subject. She smiled and asked, "Kyle, Mommy and Daddy are taking you out to play today. Where do you want to go?" Kyle blinked his big eyes, his cute round face full of innocent curiosity. He looked at Ethan. "Wherever Daddy goes, I'll go." A pang of sorrow shot through Ethan's heart, but he kept a bright smile on his face. "Then how about Daddy takes you to Disneyland?" Kyle nodded vigorously, a sweet smile spreading across his face. "Okay, I'll listen to Daddy." The family of three packed their things and drove to Disneyland. It wasn't a weekend, so the park wasn't crowded. They could get on many rides without waiting in line. Ethan held Kyle's chubby little hand and took him on the carousel, the Ferris wheel, the space tunnel, the pendulum ride, the pirate ship. They went on almost every classic ride. For the more intense rides like the roller coaster and bungee jumping, father and son stood by and watched with delight. The day flew by. In the evening, Ethan held Kyle's hand with one hand and Evelyn's with the other, sitting and watching the magnificent light show. At night, brilliant fireworks exploded in the sky, scattering colorful light before fading into wisps of smoke. Just like a person's life, a blaze of glory, then nothingness. The thought brought tears to Evelyn's eyes. On the way home, Kyle was exhausted and fell asleep. Ethan carried his small body, laid him on the bed, and tucked him in. This was the first time he had been home in a year. Ever since he and Evelyn divorced, Ethan hadn't dared to set foot in the house. He was afraid that when he turned on the lights, the large house would be empty, without a soul in sight. He was afraid that he wouldn't see her waiting for him on the sofa, and that the sadness would make him cry. He had started living at the office. "Ethan, do you want to take a shower?" Evelyn asked gently. Ethan nodded. The moment he stepped into the bathroom, his head spun. A sharp pain in his chest nearly consumed him. He clutched his heart, lost his footing, and fell heavily. Evelyn rushed into the bathroom in a panic, grabbing Ethan's arm and shouting, "Ethan, wake up," but Ethan's eyelids were heavy, showing no sign of opening. The commotion woke Kyle. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and came to Evelyn's side. "Mommy, what's wrong with Daddy?" Evelyn couldn't bear to tell him the truth. She controlled her emotions as best she could and stroked Kyle's head. "Sweetheart, Daddy is sick. Mommy is taking him to the hospital." With that, Evelyn quickly called for help. She couldn't leave the child at home alone, so she had to dress Kyle and take him with her. Watching the pale-faced Ethan being wheeled into the emergency room, in that moment, Evelyn saw her own heart clearly. She still loved Ethan. That had never changed. After a full day and night of emergency treatment, Ethan was out of immediate danger. Thanks to Liam's foresight, he had already prepared a room for Ethan, so Kyle and Evelyn had a place to wait. When Ethan was brought back, he looked even more frail, his face as white as a sheet. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Kyle leaned over the bed, seeming to sense the gravity of the situation, and asked pitifully. Evelyn, her eyes filled with tears, told Kyle everything about Ethan's condition. Watching her sobbing son, Evelyn's heart broke. She held Kyle tightly, gently patting his back, and comforted him in a low voice. "Kyle, you're Daddy's proudest son. Even if Daddy isn't here one day, he'll be watching you from heaven. He'll be silently blessing you, hoping you're doing well, cheering you on." Kyle buried his tear-streaked face in Evelyn's shoulder, sobbing softly. "I know, Mommy. Don't worry, I'm a big boy." He was at an age when he should be carefree, yet he was being so strong. Evelyn was heartbroken, her own sobs uncontrollable. When she got a call from Leo, Evelyn was trying to get Kyle to sleep. Although Ethan was out of danger, he was still unconscious, lying in bed with an IV. "Leo, I'm at the hospital." This time, Evelyn didn't try to hide anything. Worried about her, Leo rushed over. There were some things Evelyn couldn't say in front of Kyle. She gently patted Kyle's hand. "Sweetheart, Mommy and Uncle Leo are going to talk for a minute. You stay here with Daddy, okay?" Kyle forced his sleepy eyes open and nodded obediently. "Don't worry, Mommy, I won't go anywhere. I'll wait for you here." "You're such a good boy." Evelyn looked at her son's small figure, her heart filled with sorrow. She followed Leo into the hallway, not too far from the room. In case of an emergency, she could rush back quickly. Leo reached out, wanting to take Evelyn's arm to comfort her, but Evelyn shifted slightly, avoiding his hand. "Evelyn, you," Leo realized what was happening and stammered, "are you getting back together with him?" Evelyn's body trembled. She lowered her gaze, her thick, curly lashes hiding the sadness in her eyes. She forced a smile. "Leo, if Ethan can get better, you'll remarry him?" Leo's eyes widened in disbelief. "But he hurt you so many times before and you're going to remarry him." Evelyn took a deep breath, looked up at Leo, and said slowly, "Leo, it was all a misunderstanding. Ethan and I have resolved things. From now on, I will stay by his side, take care of him and Kyle until the very end. Whether he lives or dies, I won't leave him." Leo's face fell, his heart twisting in pain. For years, he had quietly loved Evelyn, and his feelings had never changed. Now, seeing her return to her old life, his heart shattered into a million pieces, and tears welled in his eyes. Leo stood there, stunned, his face a mask of disbelief. He couldn't understand how Evelyn could so cruelly push him away, when he had been the one by her side all this time. "Evelyn, are you saying you're going to stay and take care of Ethan and only after he's gone you'll come back to me?" Leo clung to a final shred of hope. Even if Evelyn saw him as a backup plan, a safety net, he was willing to accept it. For so many years, his feelings had never wavered. He loved Evelyn deeply enough to take her for treatment, to help her make a comeback, all because of his unwavering love. Evelyn lowered her gaze, her eyes wet with tears. She bit her dry lips, her voice choked with emotion. "I'm sorry, I really don't want to deceive you. I'm still deeply in love with Ethan. Even if he passes away, I won't be able to love another man. At that time, I will focus on raising Kyle, and I will cherish the memories of our past alone." Leo was devastated, his eyes locked on the woman before him. "Is it worth it? Is it worth sacrificing your whole life for Ethan?" Evelyn's lips trembled, tears streaming down her face. Her voice was filled with a helpless sorrow. "Leo, for me, to be able to love Ethan without reservation, whatever I do is worth it." Leo was at a loss for words. His heart was breaking, a heavy stone pressing on his chest, making it hard to breathe. After a 3-second silence, Evelyn sighed, her emotions slightly calmer. "Leo, give me your account number. When Ethan is a little better, I'll work hard to earn money and pay you back in installments for the high medical bills." After all, Evelyn owed Leo too much. She couldn't repay the emotional debt, but she couldn't owe him money as well. Her thoughts were clear in her eyes. "Evelyn, I don't know what to do with you." Leo's handsome face was filled with sadness, but his gaze towards Evelyn was full of gentleness. He loved her so much, how could he put her in a difficult position? Taking a deep breath, Leo chose to bear the heartache alone and accept Evelyn's decision. As long as the person he loved was happy, he could watch her from afar and find a kind of love in her happiness. "Evelyn, I understand. Since you want to stay by Ethan's side, to walk with him on his final journey, to cherish your love for a lifetime, then I respect your decision." Leo's tone was formal. He raised the back of his hand to wipe away a tear, hiding his sorrow in his heart. Evelyn was instantly moved, her nose tingling, her eyes red, unable to stop the tears. "Leo, thank you for understanding me, thank you so much." Leo couldn't bear to see her like this. He patted her shoulder. "We've known each other for so many years. You don't need to feel guilty, and you don't need to pay me back. Your senior is a wealthy man, I'm not short on that kind of money. In the future, if you have the chance, come visit me abroad anytime. We may not be husband and wife, but our friendship remains. You'll always be my most cherished junior." Leo's heart was heavy as he made his final choice. He was letting her go, giving her freedom, burying his love away. By taking a step back and becoming friends, their bond could truly last forever. Evelyn cried even harder. Leo, you are my guardian angel in this life. I will never forget your help. I will repay you one day. We will always be like brother and sister. Leo forced a helpless smile. Okay, we'll always be like brother and sister. I'll listen to you. Evelyn nodded forcefully, giving Leo a gentle smile in return. Leo, if you need anything in the future, just call me. When Ethan is a little better, I'll start designing jewelry again. All my designs for you will be free. It was the best way she could repay him. Leo's furrowed brow gradually relaxed. He stood tall, his hands behind his back. Then I'm the one who's getting a great deal. A talented designer like you will surely help me create even more value. They chatted for a while longer about work and future plans. Only when Liam went into the room to check on Ethan did Leo reluctantly say goodbye. I'm going to book my flight. Since you're staying, I'll be flying back to work tomorrow. Leo couldn't bear the daily torture of watching Evelyn and Ethan together. It would only break his heart more. Only by leaving this painful place, by throwing himself into his work, could he hope to overcome his heartbreak. Evelyn understood his feelings and didn't try to make him stay. She smiled understandingly. Okay, when you're settled, we'll talk on the phone. We'll have plenty of time to see each other in the future. Take care of yourself, Leo. Leo nodded slightly. All right, don't worry, he waved at Evelyn, as if saying goodbye to his past, to his lost love. Evelyn responded with a bright, radiant smile. After watching Leo leave the hospital, Evelyn hurried back to the room. Inside, Liam was doing a routine checkup on Ethan. Evelyn came in quietly, walking on tiptoe so as not to disturb him. Liam heard her and turned to look. He needs to rest. By my calculations, he has a month at most. Evelyn rubbed her swollen eyes. She had now fully accepted the reality of Ethan's terminal illness. Dr. Shawcross, can you do me a favor? Liam was momentarily taken aback, then asked curiously, what is it? I'm Ethan's best friend. I'll do what I can to help. Evelyn looked at Kyle, who was so tired he could barely keep his eyes open on the sofa, and felt a pang of guilt. Dr. Shawcross, could you please take care of Kyle for a while? I want to be with Ethan for his final days. Liam didn't refuse. He felt for the poor child. It wasn't good for him to be living in a hospital. Of course, Kyle is Ethan's son. You can trust me with him. I'll take good care of him. Evelyn bowed gratefully. Thank you, Dr. Shawcross. Liam waved a hand. It's nothing. You just stay with Ethan. Seeing this tragic couple always weighed heavily on Liam's heart. For the next week, Evelyn devoted herself completely to caring for Ethan. It was as if they had gone back to when they were first dating, in love, helping each other, truly cherishing one another. If she could, Evelyn wished she could freeze time, to have more moments with this dying man, to create more beautiful, happy memories. However, Vivian Shaw's arrival shattered their brief period of peace. Evelyn's face darkened the moment she saw Vivian standing by the bed. What are you doing here? Please leave immediately. You are not welcome here. Vivian wasn't angry. She simply pulled over a chair and sat down, crossing her legs, her arms folded across her chest, glaring at Evelyn with arrogance. What? I'm not welcome? You're just the divorced ex-wife. What right do you have to talk to me? I'm Ethan's girlfriend. Evelyn quickly walked over to Ethan's side, checked his IV and respirator, and, seeing that everything was fine, breathed a quiet sigh of relief. Vivian looked down at her, a contemptuous sneer on her face. I love my boyfriend deeply. I would never harm him, but you, what right do you have to stay by his side? Vivian tossed Evelyn's bag and clothes from the sofa, sending them scattering across the floor. Take your things and get out. Don't ever let me see you again from now on. I'll be the one taking care of Ethan. He's my man. You and he are the past, a past you can never return to. Of course, Evelyn wasn't going to leave. She had already asked Dr. Liam Shawcross to pick up their son, to look after Kyle. She had explained everything to Leo Ramsey, laying her heart bare. She did all this so she would have no regrets, so she could stay by Ethan's side and make up for the time they had lost. Vivian, I know the whole truth, Evelyn said calmly. You and Ethan were just acting. You took the money, so you should have made a clean exit. You shouldn't be clinging to him like this. Ethan doesn't want to see you, but Vivian wouldn't give up. She viciously stomped on the clothes on the floor. You bitch you're divorced, yet you keep haunting him, trying to seduce him. How can you be so shameless? Let me tell you, Ethan is mine, he's my man. in life and in death if you dare try to take him from me. Don't blame me for fighting you to the death. Get out right now." As she spoke, Vivian could no longer contain her rage. She snatched up Evelyn's belongings and hurled them out the door. Then she grabbed Evelyn's arm and began shoving her, trying to drag her out of the room. The loud argument woke the sleeping Ethan. He struggled to sit up, pulled off his respirator mask, and barked in a cold, furious voice. "Vivian, get out of here." Now, seeing the man awake, Vivian spun around and knelt by the bed, her wide eyes constricting. "Ethan, I can't forget you. I went to the company to find you, I asked everywhere for news about you, and I finally found you here at the hospital. I've made up my mind. I don't care what happens to you, I still love you. Even if you used me for years, even if you lied to me for so long, I forgive you, please, just let me stay, okay?" Vivian's love had become a near frenzied obsession. She begged him over and over, her mind teetering on the brink of collapse. Ethan's eyes filled with disgust, and a cold, thin cruelty flickered across his deathly pale face. He reached over and pressed the call button next to his bed, summoning a nurse immediately. "Ethan, don't be so cruel to me. Don't lie to me, hurt me, and then just throw me away," Vivian pleaded, tears of grievance streaming down her face, her expression a mask of anguish. Fearing Vivian might do something drastic, Evelyn quickly moved to shield Ethan, standing protectively in front of him. "You're still young. Why are you so hung up on one person? If you truly love Ethan, then give him his freedom. Letting him go is also letting yourself go." Just then, a nurse burst into the room. Seeing the utter chaos of the dispute, she immediately called security. A few people rushed in and forcibly dragged Vivian away. After Vivian was gone, the attending physician came to apologize personally. "I'm so sorry. Before Dr. Shawcross went on leave, he specifically instructed us to take excellent care of Mr. Hawthorne. However, that woman is incredibly scheming. She pretended to be a family member visiting a patient and snuck into the room. We checked the security footage. She's been casing the place for several days, figuring out the perfect time to strike. She waited until Miss Sterling went out to buy lunch during the nurse's shift change and slipped into the room with ill intent. It was our mistake for not being more vigilant. We mistook her for a relative of another patient. We deeply apologize for the trouble this has caused. Thankfully, no real harm was done. Please forgive us." The doctor's sincere apology cooled much of Ethan's anger. Worried that Vivian would return, he said to the doctor, "Please hire 2 security guards to stand watch outside the room. That woman is unstable and extreme. Since she failed this time, there's no telling what other terrible things she might do." The doctor nodded in agreement. "Of course, I'll contact the security department. They'll work in shifts and patrol the area around the room to ensure your safety. If she came back with a knife and hurt other patients or nurses, it would be far more serious." Listening from the side, Evelyn suggested, "She was disturbing the peace. Did you call the police?" The doctor looked troubled. "Miss Sterling, this is a personal dispute between the 3 of you, a conflict between an ex-wife and a current girlfriend. As long as no actual harm is done, the police can't arrest her. They can only file a report." Evelyn understood. Vivian had probably done her research before coming, which was why she hadn't done anything even more drastic. After the doctor left, Evelyn began to pick up her things from the floor. But then she noticed she couldn't find Ethan's phone. "Ethan, where's your phone?" Evelyn asked. Ethan looked surprised. He checked under his pillow and in the nightstand, but it wasn't there. "I don't remember where I put it." "Don't worry, try calling it." Evelyn dialed Ethan's number, but no one answered. A sense of foreboding washed over her. She had a terrible feeling. Could Vivian have snatched the phone on her way out? Not wanting to worry Ethan, she kept her worst fears to herself. Instead, she tried to soothe him. "It's okay, let's look again. I'll call the bank first and have them freeze all your cards just to be safe." Ethan's handsome face was as cold as ice in the dead of winter. "That's all we can do for now. Keep looking. If we really can't find it, we'll report it to the police." The search took up the entire afternoon. Ethan's face grew paler, and the pain in his chest was becoming suffocating. He had to rely on his medication to keep it at bay. After each dose, he would fall into a short, deep sleep. Evelyn was terrified that one day he might fall asleep and never wake up. What would she do then? Sitting by his bed, she gently tucked the covers around Ethan, who was sleeping heavily after taking his medicine again. She took out her own phone and sent a text to the missing one. "Is this Vivian?" A reply came back quickly, not with words, but with several photos of Kyle, followed by a message that was almost pathological in its cruelty. "I'm planning on selling all the personal information on this phone. Pictures of you and your son should fetch a pretty penny. I'll even post them on some shady international websites for people to enjoy." Evelyn's mind went blank. She clutched her phone, her legs trembling with shock and fear. She had guessed that Vivian might have stolen the phone to force Ethan's hand, or even to drive her away from the hospital. But she had grossly underestimated Vivian's viciousness. That wicked woman didn't just want to be with Ethan. She wanted to ruin Evelyn, and she wasn't afraid to harm their young son to do it. Evelyn's blood boiled. The simmering rage in her chest erupted into an uncontrollable inferno when she saw the next messages from Vivian. "Kyle is so adorable. He'll be a superstar on those dark websites. Do you know what those people do? They might travel thousands of miles to find the boy in the pictures and take him home to play with. And you, these pictures of you are so pure yet so tempting. You'd be a huge hit with all those lonely old men in the middle of nowhere. They'll be fighting over you. Maybe you should just service all of them at once." A flood of filthy, disgusting messages followed. Vivian's thoughts were spiraling into a sick, crazed obsession. Evelyn grabbed a glass of water and gulped it down, trying to calm her racing heart. She forced herself to stay calm. "Don't be scared. Don't panic. Vivian, what is your goal?" Evelyn typed, testing the waters. She waited a minute. The reply came, "Come out. I'll give you an address. Don't call the police and don't tell Ethan. Come alone. You and I will settle this, just the two of us. If we come to an agreement, I'll give you the phone back. And don't worry, I haven't made any copies." Evelyn didn't believe a word of her lies, so she refused directly. "And if I don't go?" Vivian sent a screenshot of a chat log. "Selling some private photos, take a look and make an offer. Personal info included, his identity is worth a lot." Attached to the message were several flattering photos of Evelyn. Vivian then sent another text. "What do you think? Should I send them the pictures of Kyle next? I'm telling you, you don't have a choice. I'm giving you two options. Either you come and meet me, or you and Kyle spend the rest of your lives living in constant, unknown danger." Seeing the horrifying chat log, Evelyn's heart hammered in her chest with panic. She tried to calm herself, thinking she could reason with her. "What you're doing is a crime. Don't throw your life away. You're young and beautiful. Don't be rash. You can have a wonderful life without Ethan. It's not worth ruining yourself for a man who doesn't love you." Evelyn sent message after message, but they were like stones dropped into the ocean, met with silence. Finally, just as anxiety was consuming her, Vivian replied, "Have you made your choice? It's one or the other. Are you coming to settle this with me, or am I selling all of your private information, including your son's photos?" This level of madness terrified Evelyn. She didn't care what happened to Ethan or herself, but Kyle was different. He was her child with Ethan, the embodiment of all their love. She couldn't let him be tainted by Vivian's filthy darkness. Evelyn was cornered. She had no other choice. Fear, panic, anxiety, and conflict swirled inside her, leaving her with only one option. She had to meet this deranged woman. "Send me the address," Evelyn replied coldly. The response was instant. "Remember, don't call the police, don't tell Ethan. Come alone, secretly. Otherwise, you'll face the consequences." Evelyn received the address and replied with a single word, "Okay." She changed into a comfortable tracksuit and a pair of sturdy sneakers, slipping her phone into her pocket. She was traveling light. Beside her, Ethan was still asleep, the respirator beeping softly. Evelyn gazed at him, her heart aching with reluctance. She leaned down and gently pressed a kiss to his cheek. "Ethan, don't worry," she whispered. "I won't let anyone hurt you, and I certainly won't let that evil woman harm our child." Muttering to herself, she dialed Liam's number. "Dr. Shawcross, you have to be extremely careful for the next few days. Vivian is back, and I'm afraid she might try to go after Kyle." Liam was surprised. Has she lost her mind? She already took the money Ethan paid her. Why won't she give up? A flicker of unease crossed Evelyn's eyes, but her expression was resolute, almost grim. "In any case, I'm entrusting Kyle to you," Liam readily agreed. "I just started my annual leave, so I can stay with Kyle the whole time. My house is covered in security cameras. If anyone suspicious shows up, I'll call the police immediately. You don't have to worry. Good. Thank you, Liam, Evelyn said, genuinely grateful. How is Ethan's condition? Liam asked with concern. Evelyn glanced at the sleeping man. He's stable for now. I don't know how much longer he has. The mood turned heavy. Liam sighed deeply. Besides taking care of Kyle, there's nothing I can do. I've truly done everything I can for his illness. Evelyn managed a bitter, pained smile. I know. You've done more than enough. To have a friend as dedicated as Liam truly moved her. After hanging up, Evelyn called for the attending physician. She hadn't told Liam about Vivian's plan because she didn't want to distract him. He needed to focus completely on keeping Kyle safe. But the attending physician was different. He had witnessed the earlier conflict firsthand. Doctor, if I'm not back by nightfall, you must call the police and go to this address to find me. Evelyn explained the entire situation to the doctor, forwarding him the screenshots of the chat log as evidence. That woman is insane. It's too dangerous for you to go alone. Let me get 2 security guards to protect you. Evelyn shook her head. Not right now. I can't risk tipping her off. You saw her unhinged state this afternoon. I have to go alone. If I'm not back by 7, call the police and have them go get her. The doctor trusted that Evelyn had her reasons and agreed at once. All right, you can go. I've saved the address. Here, take these syringes just in case. He gave her several unopened syringes, which she hid in her pocket. They might come in handy for self-defense. Leaving the hospital, Evelyn hailed a taxi and went to the address Vivian had given her. It was an abandoned old building complex. Most of the residents in the demolition area had already left, but the developer's funding had fallen through, halting the project. Only a few dilapidated, half-demolished structures remained, surrounded by rubble, overgrown weeds, and an eerie silence. Evelyn proceeded cautiously, her heart pounding with every step she took on the broken stones. It was dusk, and the setting sun cast a brilliant, golden glow over her, making her look like a warrior marching to her doom. Evelyn moved carefully, step by step. She took out her phone and called Vivian, but there was no answer. 3 seconds later, a text came through. Did you call the police? Does Ethan know? Is anyone following you, protecting you? Evelyn replied, no one knows. I came alone. After a few more seconds, Vivian called her. Evelyn, I'm not going to text you the address. I won't give you a chance to screenshot it and call for help. Now, follow my instructions. Keep walking straight back. See that black, derelict building? Come up the old staircase on the right side. And don't hang up the phone. Evelyn had no choice but to comply. She looked up at the setting sun. If Vivian really had something terrible planned, she would just have to hold out, stall until the attending physician called the police, and then wait for rescue. The abandoned building had clearly been empty for a very long time. The floors were covered in a thick layer of dust, the corners were filled with cobwebs, and piles of bricks and sand for construction were scattered everywhere. Every step sent dust flying into the air. I'm at the bottom of the stairs. What now? Evelyn asked cautiously, her voice echoing in the empty stairwell. Vivian continued to give instructions. Go up, all the way to the top floor. Push open the red wooden door. Evelyn looked up. By her estimate, it was a 5-story walk-up. Okay. The stairs were steep, like a treacherous stone path carved into a cliffside. Each step was a struggle. It felt as if one misstep would send her plunging into an abyss, to be shattered into pieces. As she reached the 3rd floor, Evelyn heard a scratching sound in the stairwell, like a rat gnawing on something. She gasped, a cold sweat breaking out on her back. Vivian, where did you find such a creepy, remote place? Weren't you scared coming here alone? Aren't you terrified walking up to the 5th floor by yourself? Evelyn spoke softly into the phone, her words sounding especially eerie in the empty building. On the other end, Vivian let out a wild laugh, a sound filled with unrestrained resentment, like the shriek of a madwoman. Scared? Why should I be scared? Ha, my whole life has been a tragedy. I have no parents, no relatives, no friends. I'm all alone. If I die, there's no one to even claim my body. What do I have to be afraid of? No, I have Ethan. He's the only thing I care about, the only person I love in this world. And you stole him from me. If it weren't for you, Ethan would never have abandoned me. As she spoke, Evelyn reached the red wooden door on the 5th floor. The place looked like something out of a horror movie, every part of it seemingly on the verge of collapse. I'm at the door, Evelyn said in a low voice. Vivian didn't reply. The line was silent. Evelyn couldn't even hear her breathing. She stood frozen, not daring to make a move. She spoke again. "Vivian?" "Come in this time." Vivian's voice held a note of glee, mixed with a complex, barely controlled emotion. Evelyn narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "Are you in the room?" she asked quietly. The other end didn't answer, just erupted into crazed laughter. "What? Are you scared? Afraid to come in? Then I guess I'll just send Kyle's pictures to that buyer." Time to make some money. Hearing this, Evelyn's fear instantly vanished. She had to protect Ethan. She had to protect Kyle. She had to protect the people most important to her. "Fine. I'm coming in," Evelyn said coldly. The line went dead. Everything fell silent again, an unnerving stillness. Night was beginning to fall, and the dim light inside the dilapidated building created a scene straight out of a horror film. Evelyn silently gave herself a pep talk. "For my family, I can't be afraid." She quickly snapped a photo of the staircase and the red wooden door and sent it to the attending physician. She sent him a message: "Meeting Vivian here. Can't answer calls." She turned on her location sharing, sent it to him, then silenced her phone and tucked it safely in her pocket. Next, she uncapped one of the syringes the doctor had given her and placed it in her jacket pocket where she could easily reach it. Taking a deep breath, she calmed her frantic nerves. Evelyn raised her hand and gave the wooden door a gentle push. It creaked open, revealing a narrow slit. "Vivian!" Evelyn called out. There was only silence. No one appeared. Evelyn pushed harder. This time, the red wooden door fell inward with a dull thud, revealing a pitch-black, unfinished room. The windows had been removed, the floor was uneven, and dust and debris crumbled from the walls. Evelyn called out again, "Vivian!" Nothing but the empty echo of her own voice. From the doorway, she couldn't see any sign of Vivian. Evelyn's mind raced. She guessed that Vivian was probably hiding near the entrance. She picked up a discarded wooden plank from the floor, holding it up with one hand to shield her head, and quietly stepped forward. She had only taken a few steps, just as her body fully entered the room. Suddenly, a rush of cold air came from behind her. Evelyn whipped around just in time to see a steel rebar swinging at her head. "Die, die!" Vivian's voice echoed in the empty room like a demon's call, chilling and terrifying. She was holding a length of rebar, which she brought down hard on the wooden plank in Evelyn's hand. "Vivian, are you insane?" Evelyn yelled. The plank splintered in two. If Evelyn hadn't been prepared, that blow would have left her half dead, if not worse. "You damn bitch, only when you're dead will Ethan love me. He can only belong to me. No one is going to take him from me." Vivian seemed possessed, screaming hysterically as she swung the rebar wildly, trying to smash Evelyn. "Calm down," Evelyn shouted angrily, dodging left and right, her nimble body evading the powerful attacks. Several times, the heavy rebar narrowly missed her. As she retreated, she was backed into a corner of the room. Vivian let out a crazed laugh. "You're about to die. Any last words? Let me tell you, Ethan is mine. Anything I set my sights on, I will get. If my life is miserable, then no one gets to be happy what I can't have. I'd rather destroy than let anyone else have it." Realizing the danger she was in, Evelyn had only one thought: stall for time. She had to do whatever it took to hold out until the police arrived. Evelyn decided to try a mix of persuasion and firmness. She started by appealing to reason. "Vivian, don't be rash. Murder is a capital crime. You'll destroy your own life. You're still so young, with a long future ahead of you. It's not worth throwing your life away for Ethan." Vivian gave a sinister, chilling smile, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Is that your last wish? You're not going to get on your knees and beg me to spare you?" Evelyn's heart was in her throat. She took a sharp, nervous breath. "What's the use of begging you? At this point, you're not going to let me go. Either we both die here or we both find a way to live." Vivian shook her head. "Wrong, you die, I live." With that, she swung the rebar straight at Evelyn. Unarmed, Evelyn was no match for her. She had no choice but to run, bolting from the empty room through the broken wooden doorway. Vivian dragged the pipe behind her, chasing after her. "You can't escape, Evelyn," she taunted. "I spent days picking this place. It's perfect. You can scream your lungs out, and no one will ever find you." The rebar scraped against the ground, making a piercing, screeching sound. Evelyn scrambled down the stairs. She wanted to get to the open ground outside, to get away from the ruins and onto the main road where cars were constantly passing. Vivian wouldn't be able to attack her there, but the more she rushed, the more she stumbled. As she reached the ground floor, her foot slipped. She missed a step and went tumbling down the last flight of stairs. A wave of pain washed over her entire body, nearly overwhelming her senses. She tried to move her arm. It hurt. It hurt so much she could barely breathe. Worst of all, Vivian was walking down the stairs, dragging the rebar, like a demon coming to claim her soul, getting closer and closer. See, even God won't help you. It looks like you're destined to die by my hand today, Vivian laughed triumphantly, standing over Evelyn, looking down at her with contempt. She raised the rebar, but before she could bring it down, Evelyn suddenly rolled twice on the ground, pushing herself up with her legs into a sitting position. With one hand, she grabbed a syringe, and with the other, she seized Vivian's ankle and jabbed the needle in with all her might. The full force of the jab into the skin of Vivian's left foot was excruciating. Vivian screamed, dropping the rebar and collapsing in pain. Evelyn pressed her advantage, not giving her a moment to recover. She plunged another syringe into Vivian's right foot. Blood seeped from the wounds. Vivian, who had never experienced such pain, was nearly suffocating from the agony. Evelyn followed up with several more strikes, leaving Vivian battered and disheveled. Vivian wailed, grabbing the rebar from the ground and bringing it down hard on Evelyn's back. Evelyn reached out to grab it, and the two began a desperate struggle. After a few rounds, it was clear that Vivian's injuries were more severe than Evelyn's. "You want to take me down with you? Fine, I'll grant your wish," Vivian snarled, pulling a syringe from her own arm and lunging at Evelyn, aiming for her heart. Evelyn wasn't wearing much, and the needle pierced right through her t-shirt, scratching her skin. A sharp, searing pain spread through Evelyn's body. She could feel the sting of the wound. But she gritted her teeth, fighting to buy precious time, grappling with Vivian again and again. She had Kyle. She had Ethan. They were all waiting for her to come back. She absolutely could not fail. The life or death struggle was evenly matched. Finally, both of them were seriously injured, with cuts and bruises all over their bodies. Evelyn glanced at the sky outside. After all the fighting, it was now pitch black, with only the faint twinkle of distant streetlights visible. It was nighttime, she just had to hold on a little longer. Rescue would be coming soon, so Evelyn didn't show any fear. She gritted her teeth, scrambled up from the ground, grabbed a handful of dirt, and threw it in Vivian's face. The acrid dust flew into Vivian's eyes, and she screamed in pain. Evelyn seized the opportunity, fleeing the room and slamming the broken door shut. She dragged a discarded table over, barricading the entrance to keep Vivian from getting out. "Just one door between us," Evelyn thought. "Hold on until the very end, wait for rescue, and I'll have made it." Meanwhile, at the city hospital, Ethan woke from his sleep. He called out softly, "Evelyn." The room was silent. No response. "Evelyn, I'm awake. You can go get something to eat," Ethan said, his voice gentle and low, a tone he reserved only for her. Still, the room was deathly quiet, so quiet he could almost hear his own faint breathing. The lights were off. It was dark and no one answered him. Ethan froze for a moment. He struggled to reach out and turn on the lamp on his nightstand. The dark room was instantly flooded with light, revealing it to be completely empty. "Evelyn, where did you go?" Ethan called out again, but there was no reply. A terrible feeling crept over him. Usually, at this time, Evelyn would be napping on the sofa or keeping watch by his bed, waiting quietly for him to wake up. Today, everything was different. His phone was missing. Ethan pulled the IV needle from the back of his hand, threw on a large coat, and stumbled out of the room. The security guard at the door saw his weak state and said with concern, "Mr. Hawthorne, you need to rest. Please go back to your room." Ethan's eyes were filled with anxiety. "Have you seen Evelyn Sterling? She's not in the room," the guard thought for a moment. "She was here this afternoon. She talked to the attending physician for a long time. After that, I haven't seen her." Ethan's brow furrowed, his eyes blazing with uncontrollable worry. "Let me borrow your phone. I need to call her." He dialed the number he knew by heart, the number he hadn't forgotten in all these years. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered. Once, twice, 3 times, he tried several more times, but there was still no response. At that moment, Ethan truly panicked. He had never been so scared, so worried that Evelyn would leave him. His mind raced to the worst possible conclusions, panicked, helpless thoughts. What if something had happened to her? Ethan handed the phone back to the guard and ran to the attending physician's office to find out what was going on. The office door was ajar. The doctor had his back to the door, facing the window, speaking quietly on the phone. "Yes, that's the address. She went to meet an enemy, and I'm afraid something has happened. She's not answering my calls or messages." The enemy chose the location, a complex of abandoned demolition buildings. She said it was for a final settlement to clear the air once and for all. I don't know if it's about money or something worse. "Okay, I'm heading over now. Please get there as soon as you can. This is a matter of life and death. The enemy is the same psychopath who caused a scene at the hospital." The doctor finished his report and hung up. He took off his white coat, changed his clothes, and headed for the door. When he opened it, he jumped in surprise. "Mr. Hawthorne, why aren't you in your room resting? What are you doing out here?" "Go back." Ethan ignored his question, grabbing the doctor's arm, his eyes filled with dread. "Where is Evelyn? I just heard you on the phone with the police. Where did she go?" The doctor hesitated. He knew Ethan's body was as fragile as a pane of glass, ready to shatter at any moment. Seeing his silence, Ethan grew even more frantic. He gripped the doctor's arms tighter, tears welling up in his eyes. "Doctor, please tell me Evelyn is my everything. She's my life. If anything happens to her, I won't be able to go on. Vivian is after her because of me. That woman took my phone, and now Evelyn is being controlled, forced to go to that dangerous place, all because of me." The doctor couldn't refuse him. Time was critical. Any further delay, and Evelyn could really lose her life. "Let's go. Come with me. Don't think about anything else. Saving her is what matters." The doctor drove, with Ethan in the passenger seat, speeding down the road towards the abandoned demolition site on the outskirts of the city. Along the way, the doctor quickly explained what he knew. "That damn Vivian, I never thought she could be so vicious. She's inhuman," Ethan cursed, his voice shaking with fury. The car pulled up to the desolate, abandoned lot. The demolition area was vast, with no streetlights. It was pitch black. The doctor took 2 flashlights from the car and handed one to Ethan. "This area is huge, and we can't see a thing. We both need to be careful." Ethan didn't want to waste any time. "Let's split up. I'll search the right side, you take the left." He then picked up 2 wooden sticks from the rubble, handing one to the doctor. "Take this for protection. We have to be on guard for an ambush from Vivian at all times." The doctor nodded. With a flashlight in one hand and the stick in the other, he hurried off to search for Vivian and Evelyn. Ethan took a deep breath and ran in the opposite direction. In front of him stood a dilapidated building, looking desolate and sinister. Without a second thought, Ethan rushed inside. He navigated through piles of debris, circling around to the back. Suddenly, he heard the sounds of a fierce struggle coming from inside. Ethan's mind exploded. He ran towards the sound and kicked open a closed wooden door. "Evelyn, Evelyn," he shouted, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness of the ruined room. Near the window, blood was trickling from Evelyn's forehead, clearly from having hit her head during the fight. Her hands and feet were bound tightly with thick rope. Standing beside her was Vivian, covered in injuries, her clothes stained with fresh blood. When the 2 women saw Ethan, they both stared in shock. Evelyn, her body racked with pain, was crying, but her immediate concern was for him. "What are you doing here? Go run, don't worry about me." Ethan's gaze, filled with rage, locked onto Vivian. He lunged forward, ready to be the hero. But he had only taken 2 steps when Vivian pressed a shard of glass against Evelyn's wrist. The cut wasn't deep, but crimson blood began to well up. Vivian's eyes were wide, a crazed smile spreading across her face as she shrieked. "You come any closer, Ethan. If you take one more step, I'll slit her throat and let you spend the rest of your life with her corpse." Ethan froze. His heart was pounding with urgency, but he had to control his frantic emotions. He couldn't make a reckless move. "Vivian, calm down. Don't dig your own grave. What you're doing now will get you arrested. You'll be sentenced to years in prison. If you turn yourself in, it's not too late. Don't be so stubborn." But Vivian wasn't listening. The hand holding the glass shard trembled as she gestured menacingly at Evelyn's neck. Ethan immediately stopped, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "Don't get agitated. I won't come any closer. I'll just stay here and talk with you. Please don't do anything rash." Tears streamed down Evelyn's face. "Ethan, go. Don't fall for her tricks. Before she could finish, Vivian roughly stuffed a dirty rag into her mouth. Evelyn shook her head, muffled sobs escaping her as tears soaked the hair at her temples. Seeing her in such pain and distress, Ethan felt a sharp, stabbing pain in his chest, as if he'd been punched, leaving him breathless. "Vivian, what do you want? Just talk to me. I won't move. I'll listen quietly to your demands." With Evelyn held hostage, the sharp glass at her throat, Ethan had no choice but to surrender. Vivian stared at him, her expression heartbroken and filled with pain. She squeezed the words out through gritted teeth. "Ethan, if only you had treated me like this before. Every time I wanted to talk to you, you would just shut me down. Whether I was tired or sad, happy or hurt, you never even gave me a chance to say a few words. Sometimes I would fantasize, hoping you had a shred of conscience, that you wouldn't use my feelings for you, that one day you'd have a change of heart and be a little kinder to me. But then I realized how naive I was. You were using me from the very beginning. The only one in your heart is Evelyn." Ethan couldn't deny it. His pupils contracted in horror. He apologized sincerely. "I'm sorry. Vivian, I am so sorry. I shouldn't have used your feelings. I admit I never forgot Evelyn all these years. Divorcing her was for her own good. I knew I was terminally ill, and I didn't want to hold her back. I truly didn't consider your feelings. For the pain I caused you, I am truly sorry. Please be rational. Don't hurt the innocent Evelyn." Vivian threw her head back and laughed, a wild, tragic sound. She wiped the tears from her face, her eyes glinting with a terrifying coldness. "Now you're sorry. Ethan, where were you before? Your precious Evelyn needs to be protected, but what about me? Was I just meant to be deceived by you, used like a dirty rag and then thrown away?" Ethan sucked in a breath. Despite his rage, he had to remain respectful. Evelyn was in her hands and could be killed at any moment. "It's my fault, Vivian. What is it you want? Tell me. Whatever you ask, I'm willing to agree. If you think the money I gave you before wasn't enough, I can give you more." Forced into a corner, Ethan resorted to a financial transaction, trying to sway the nearly insane Vivian. When they first met, he had seen her as a greedy, money-loving woman. He thought she had agreed to the act purely for the money. He had never imagined that one day she would develop real feelings, that she could fall deeply, irrevocably in love. "Money? Yes, you gave me money," Vivian laughed self-deprecatingly, shaking her head. Her eyes filled with an unspeakable sadness, as if she were trapped in an endless well of sorrow. "When I agreed to help you, it was never about the money. From the very beginning, I was in love with you, the person, not your power or status." Vivian laughed crazily and cried pitifully. Her alternating laughter and tears made her look like a deranged psychiatric patient, every expression exuding a sinister terror. Ethan had only one goal: to get Evelyn out safely. No price was too high. "Vivian, don't get worked up. It was my mistake to misunderstand your true feelings. How about this? You want money, I'll give it to you. If you want a house, a car, I'll give them to you. I promise you I won't go back on my word. I can even give you shares in my company, so you can live comfortably for the rest of your life. You have a bright future. Don't let a moment of impulse, for the sake of love, ruin your life." As he spoke, Ethan was subtly inching forward. The room was dark, and even with the flashlight, Vivian's dazed state prevented her from noticing the small movements. In the space of a few sentences, Ethan had moved 2 steps closer to Evelyn. Evelyn stared at the man before her, the man she had loved her whole life, the man who was giving his all for her, and tears blurred her vision. True love is revealed in times of hardship. Ethan had always loved her deeply. He had never changed. Vivian watched Ethan coolly. The emotion drained from her face, as if she had swallowed all her feelings, transforming into a ruthless, vicious woman. "Ethan, stop lying to me. Haven't you deceived me enough over the years? Give me a house, give me a car. The moment I let Evelyn go, you'll both call the police. You'll use your family's influence to make sure I rot in prison." Ethan immediately shook his head, his feet still moving forward in tiny, imperceptible increments. "Trust me. If you come to your senses, Evelyn and I won't call the police. I will give you everything you want as compensation. I'll ensure you live a comfortable life. I swear it." Vivian tilted her head, her sunken eyes narrowing. Her body was stiff, her hands motionless, but her face was contorted in a terrifying grimace. "It's too late. Your apology came too late. From the moment I took this step, there was no turning back. My goal has always been the same. To take Evelyn's life. This woman who stole my happiness. This woman who has Ethan wrapped around her finger. This woman who ruined my life, she deserves to die. As she spoke, the glass shard in Vivian's hand slid down Evelyn's cheek, moving slowly over her fair skin until it rested on the major artery in her neck. Ethan was terrified, his steps quickening as he continued to plead with her. You have a bright future, it's not a dead end. Believe me, I won't harm you. I swear to God, I will not deceive you. Vivian didn't believe him at all. Tears streamed down her face as she let out another self-mocking laugh. Ethan, if only you had been this good to me sooner, we wouldn't have come to this. If you had just woken up sooner, told me what you were thinking, and tried to guide me, we wouldn't be in this life or death situation. But it's too late. A late apology is cheaper than dirt. You two tragic lovers can prepare to meet in hell. With that, Vivian applied a little pressure to her wrist, and the glass shard broke Evelyn's skin. Bright red blood instantly welled up from her neck. In that same instant, Ethan lunged forward with all his strength, shoving Vivian hard to the ground. He pinned her down, grabbing her wrist and wrenching the piece of glass from her hand. Ethan, do you want me? Do you want to have me? Vivian thrashed beneath him, her mind on the verge of a complete breakdown. Her expression was ambiguous, as if she was being toyed with by him. Ethan didn't have time to think. He used his legs to hold her down, pinned her arms above her head with one hand, and used the other to try and untie Evelyn's ropes. But Vivian gave him no chance. Ethan, if you're a man, then take me right here. In front of Evelyn, don't be a coward. Vivian struggled violently, her strength surprising. She wrapped her legs around Ethan's body. Her hands flailed wildly, breaking free of his grip. She grabbed his neck, pulling him close. Ethan didn't give up. In that critical moment, he had an idea. He tore off his coat and used it to bind Vivian's arms, then used his pants to tie her legs. This series of actions bought him a few precious minutes. Ethan scrambled over to Evelyn, pulling the gag from her mouth and untying the ropes on her hands and feet. Don't be scared, Evelyn. Don't be scared, I'm here. I'll always protect you. Let's go. Evelyn burst into heart-wrenching sobs that echoed through the silent room. Her legs were weak, and she could barely stand. Ethan, Ethan was now wearing only a pair of shorts and an undershirt, shivering in the cold. He helped her to her feet. Don't worry about that. I'm fine. As long as you get out of here safely, it's all worth it. Evelyn leaned her weak body against his, trying her best to stay calm. Let's go, she whispered. Her neck and face were smeared with blood. She took one unsteady step, and her legs nearly gave out again. Behind them, Vivian was struggling furiously, screaming hysterically. I'm going to kill you both, Ethan. You lied to me again, you deceived me again. You wanted me just now, why did you change your mind? You used my feelings again, the man I can't have, I'd rather destroy. Ethan, I hate you, I will never forgive you. Not even in death, you big liar. If I can't be happy, then none of us will be. Vivian's shrieks were terrifying in the dead of night, like a vengeful ghost. Seeing the situation, Ethan swept Evelyn up into his arms. They couldn't afford to move slowly. Evelyn was badly injured and had no strength to fight. Every extra minute they stayed was another minute of danger. Vivian had nothing left to lose. She was capable of anything. But Ethan was different. He and Evelyn couldn't bring themselves to kill Vivian. Her fate would be decided by the law. Holding the weakened Evelyn, Ethan kicked open the door and stumbled outside. Just then, the sound of a car engine filled the air, and headlights illuminated the pitch-black night. The police had finally arrived. Ethan saw a glimmer of hope. He held Evelyn tighter and quickened his pace. Suddenly, there was a dull thud from behind him. Vivian had broken free. She had picked up a brick from the ground and smashed it against the back of Ethan's head. Betray me, toy with me, deceive me, your end is death. As soon as she finished speaking, she raised the brick again, aiming for a fatal blow to Evelyn. But in that instant, a bright light shone directly in her face. The blinding headlights made it impossible for her to see. Vivian dropped the brick and raised a hand to shield her eyes. Several well-trained police officers rushed forward, subduing her in seconds. They pinned her arms behind her back and snapped a pair of shiny handcuffs onto her wrists. At the same time, the attending physician arrived with a group of nurses. They carefully lifted the severely injured Evelyn and the unconscious Ethan onto stretchers. At the hospital, Ethan was rushed into surgery, while Evelyn's wounds were being treated in the ICU. The attending physician reviewed her test results with her. Your condition is stable. They're all superficial wounds. The cut on your head, the one on your wrist, and the scratch on your neck aren't serious. No damage to the bones or tendons. Vivian isn't a smart woman. She didn't know where to strike to cause fatal damage. You were lucky to escape with your life. Just rest well, keep the wounds clean, take your medication, and you should be healed in about 2 weeks. Evelyn's face was pale, but she managed a grateful smile. Thank you, doctor. Thank you for calling the police in time to catch that criminal. If you had been even a minute later, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The doctor smiled. Before Dr. Shawcross left, he asked me to take good care of Mr. Hawthorne. You're his friends, which makes you my friends. There's no need to be so formal. With her head bandaged, Evelyn gently touched the sore spot. Even now, the memory of the life or death battle in that abandoned building sent a shiver down her spine. Doctor, what about Ethan? How is he? Evelyn's face was etched with worry, her eyes shimmering with hope that the brick hadn't caused any critical damage. The doctor shook his head, his expression grim. Ethan's situation is much worse. He was already suffering from his illness, and now he has new injuries on top of old ones. And then he took a brick to the head. All we can do now is wait and see how the brain surgery goes. Evelyn's heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. She knew Ethan's terrible condition was all because he had saved her. The doctor tried to console her. Don't worry, our surgeons will do everything they can to save him. Evelyn refused to go back to her room. She waited right outside the operating room, her body aching, nearly collapsing from exhaustion, but she remained, wanting to be as close to Ethan as possible. The next morning, after an entire night of surgery, the light above the operating room door went out. Nurses wheeled Ethan out. Evelyn rushed forward, her face gaunt with dark circles under her eyes. Doctor, how is he? The surgeon pulled off his gloves and said slowly, He's okay. The brain surgery was a success. He needs to rest and recover. Evelyn was overjoyed. That's wonderful, thank you, doctor. Don't thank me, the doctor said, helping Evelyn up from her deep bow. But his next words were like a bucket of ice water poured over her head. Although the surgery went well, his cancer cells are spreading very quickly. After this ordeal, he has entered the final stage of terminal cancer. He doesn't have much time left. Tears streamed down Evelyn's face. Her legs gave out and she collapsed onto the cold floor. The news was a devastating blow. Even though she knew this day would come, when it finally arrived, she found she couldn't face it. You need to prepare yourself. And prepare for his final arrangements. I can see that you're the one he worries about most. The doctor offered a few more words of comfort and had a nurse help Evelyn back to their room. Ethan was lying in bed, an IV in his arm, his head wrapped in thick layers of gauze. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed, looking at his unconscious form, her heart aching. She wiped her tears, remembering how he had rescued her without a second thought in that ruined building, how he had shielded her with his own body. He was a man who loved her more than his own life, yet she had misunderstood him for so long. Her heart filled with both tenderness and regret. Ethan, how could you be so foolish? You were already so sick, yet you still came to save me. I had already told the doctor. All I had to do was wait for the police. You didn't need to sacrifice yourself. Cough, cough. Ethan coughed violently. He had heard her words and slowly opened his heavy eyelids. Seeing him awake, Evelyn's tears fell even faster. You reckless fool, why did you save me? If you hadn't come, the police would have gotten there eventually. So what if I got a few cuts and bruises? At least I'm healthier than you. I wouldn't have been hurt so badly. Ethan weakly raised a hand and gently wiped the tears from her face. How could I bear to let you get hurt? He whispered. If Vivian had harmed you, I would never have been able to rest in peace. Evelyn rubbed her swollen eyes, choking back sobs. But seeing you like this makes me even sadder. I wish all these injuries were on me. Don't say such silly things, Ethan said, gently tapping her lips. Evelyn, it's my fault. I failed to protect you before, and I caused you so much pain. From now on, I will do everything I can to watch over you, to leave you with the best of everything. He paused, a single tear tracing a path from the corner of his eye. But I don't know how many days I have left, how many more days I can protect you. Evelyn broke down completely. All the emotions she had suppressed for days burst forth. She collapsed onto his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Ethan, you'll get better, you have to. No matter how much it costs, we have to cure you. Don't leave me, Ethan. Don't say such hopeless things. Evelyn had lost control. All these days, she had tried so hard to be strong, to maintain a positive attitude. She had wanted to show him her best side, hoping they could celebrate holidays together, ring in the new year together. But reality was cruel, a sharp slap across her face. After facing death, all of Evelyn's carefully constructed walls of strength crumbled. In front of Ethan, she could no longer hold it together. Evelyn, I'm sorry, I can't be with you for much longer. You have to take care of yourself, Ethan said, wrapping an arm around her neck, his fingertips gently stroking her skin. My biggest regret in this life is not treating you well. The worst mistake I ever made was using Vivian to hurt you, to drive you away, to divorce you, making you suffer so much injustice. Evelyn, I'm so sorry, but I can't make it up to you anymore. The only thing I can do is leave my company and all my assets to you and Kyle. The Hawthorne family fortune is enough for you two to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. If you and Kyle can be happy, I can die without regrets. Ethan spoke as if delivering his last will and testament, patting her shoulder. Don't cry, don't be sad. Parting is a natural part of life that everyone must face. I'm just leaving a little early. To have met you in this life, to have had our Kyle, it was all worth it. Evelyn wiped her tears with a tissue and took a deep breath, trying to calm her turbulent emotions. She knew that no amount of crying could change their fate. Ethan's illness wouldn't disappear just because she was weak. Ethan, you have to be well. No matter how many days we have left, we have to cherish them. Evelyn forced a sweet smile. She wanted to show him her best side, so he would forever remember her at her most beautiful. The next day, Ethan summoned the company's lawyer. He personally wrote his will, signed the agreements, and pressed his thumbprint onto the documents. I leave all of my assets, including houses, vehicles, the company, stocks, and gold, to my son, Kyle, to be fully managed by his mother, Evelyn Sterling. An itemized list of assets was attached, detailing property locations and stock quantities. After signing, Ethan gave the villa keys to Evelyn, and the transfer of assets was notarized in the lawyer's presence. By the time all the paperwork was finished, it was evening. Evelyn helped his weak body back to bed, called a nurse to start a nutrient IV, and then gently wiped his handsome face with a warm towel. Evelyn, now I can go in peace. Leaving everything to you, I feel a weight lifted from my shoulders. Knowing you and Kyle will be taken care of is my greatest wish. A bright smile bloomed on Ethan's pale face, as if a great stone had been lifted from his chest. He felt unburdened, and the feeling was wonderful. Evelyn had already cried all her tears. Her eyes were now swollen and red, a faint sadness lingering in them. Thank you, Ethan. We will cherish everything you've left for us. Having a father like you is the greatest pride of Kyle's life. Ethan slowly closed his eyes. He was tired, so very tired. He had forced himself to stay strong today for the sake of Evelyn and Kyle's future, to summon the lawyer while he was still lucid enough to settle his affairs. Leaving everything to the two people he loved most in the world made his life feel complete. Now, with his final wish fulfilled, sleepiness washed over him, and he drifted into a deep slumber. When he woke again, it was noon the next day. The sun was shining brightly, and the sounds of birds and insects drifted in from outside. Evelyn was asleep at his bedside, her head resting on her arms. Ethan didn't have the heart to wake her. He just watched her quietly, trying to burn her image into his memory. If only time could freeze in this moment, so he could stay by her side forever, watching her grow old. After a long while, Evelyn opened her eyes. Seeing him awake, she smiled brightly. "You're up. Why didn't you wake me?" Ethan spoke gently. "You've been so tired lately. I couldn't bear to disturb you. I wanted you to sleep a little longer. Just looking at you makes me happy." Evelyn's sweet smile was like a brilliant star in the night sky, reflected in Ethan's eyes. "Evelyn, I want to see Kyle. When the time comes for my farewell, don't let him come. He's still too young for such a grim occasion. Tomorrow I'll see him one last time. That will be enough." His voice was laced with an unbearable sadness, but he forced a reassuring smile for her. "Okay, I'll call Liam and ask him to bring Kyle over tomorrow." The next day, Liam brought Kyle to the hospital room early in the morning. "Daddy, are you feeling better?" Kyle asked, looking up at his father's face. Ethan cupped his son's cheeks, planting kisses on them. He hugged him tightly, his face full of adoration. Kyle, he began, his voice heavy with meaning, Daddy is very sick, so I have to go overseas for treatment for a while. I might be gone for a very, very long time. Daddy is leaving you a big villa, a lot of money, and my company. You don't have to worry. You're the richest little boy in the world, understand? Kyle blinked his round eyes and fiddled with his chubby fingers. I understand. Mommy was sick once too. She was in another country for over a year before she got better. Ethan froze, looking at Evelyn in surprise, but he didn't press the issue in front of the child. Sensing the awkwardness, Liam knelt down and picked Kyle up. Kyle, from now on, how about Uncle Liam becomes your godfather? At his words, both Evelyn and Ethan stared, stunned. Liam, are you really willing to take care of Kyle? Ethan asked, his eyes wide with disbelief. Liam nodded. Of course. I've grown very fond of him during our time together. Then, he deliberately played along with Ethan's story. You just focus on getting better. Leave Kyle to me. While you're gone, I'll be his father figure and take on a father's responsibilities. Evelyn was overwhelmed with gratitude, tears shimmering in her eyes. Is that really okay? Dr. Shawcross, wouldn't it be too much trouble for you? Liam gave her a reassuring smile. It's no trouble at all. Ethan and I have known each other since we were kids. After decades of friendship, we're like brothers. Now that he needs help, it's only right that I help take care of his child. Ethan was moved to tears. Liam, to have a loyal and sincere friend like you in this life is my greatest honor. Liam waved his hand. Don't say that. Kyle will be my godson from now on. No matter what difficulties he faces, I will do my best for him. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief. Having another trustworthy person to share the responsibility of raising Kyle would make his son's childhood happier. He could depart with more peace of mind. Kyle spent the whole day with Ethan. When Liam took him home that evening, he was still smiling and encouraging his father. Daddy, you have to keep fighting, I believe in you, Ethan waved at him. Good boy. You will always be my pride, and Joy, you must grow up healthy and happy. The moment they left, Ethan's tears fell like rain. He knew this was the last time he would ever see his son. The pain of that final parting gnawed at his heart. Evelyn, when I go, don't let Liam come. We don't want Kyle to get suspicious. Let him believe that his father is just getting treatment overseas. It's the best way to protect him. Evelyn nodded. I'll tell Liam to stay with Kyle. Don't worry. After saying goodbye to Kyle and settling his affairs, having left enough for Evelyn and his son, Ethan's final wishes were fulfilled. His condition deteriorated rapidly. He would often sleep for a full day and night. The attending physician told Evelyn during his daily rounds, Before, Ethan was holding on for you too. It's a miracle he lasted this long. Now that he's done everything he needed to do, his mind is at ease. He's finally allowing himself to relax and wait for the end. You should prepare yourself. Evelyn's tears had long run dry. She rubbed her swollen eyes and sighed heavily. I am so grateful to him. He was a good father, willing to give everything to his son. Even in his final moments, he was thinking of Kyle and me. All our past grievances don't matter anymore. I just want to be with him on this final journey. I'm glad he was so considerate of Kyle's feelings that he built up this image of a great father. I'm truly content to have met him in this life. That afternoon, the police came to see Evelyn. Vivian Shaw has requested to see a family member, and she has chosen you. If you're willing to see her, you can come with us now. You also have the right to refuse, and we will inform her of your decision. Evelyn glanced at the man lying in the bed. Why wouldn't I go? Of course I'll go. Give me 2 minutes to find a doctor to watch over him. At the detention center, it was the first time in Evelyn's life she had been to such a heavily guarded place. Everything felt solemn. She followed an officer down a couple of corridors and into a quiet room with a set of iron bars. Vivian sat on the other side, wearing a loose-fitting prison uniform, her gaze dull and lifeless. She was no longer the glamorous woman she once was. The designer clothes and expensive handbags were gone, stripped of all glory and pride. Evelyn sat down opposite her, her gaze cold. You came, Vivian's voice was hoarse, as if she hadn't had water in a long time. Evelyn nodded. You asked for me. What is it? Vivian lifted her heavy eyelids, her eyes burning with intense hatred. She glared at Evelyn like a predator ready to pounce. I hate you, Evelyn Sterling. You ruined everything for me. If it weren't for you, Ethan would have loved me. His company and his fortune would have been mine. Vivian spoke through gritted teeth, still clinging to her delusions even at death's door. Evelyn didn't get angry. With the bars between them, Vivian couldn't harm her, so she struck where it would hurt the most. You hate me. You think I don't hate you? You nearly killed me, and you nearly killed Ethan. I will be filing a lawsuit to increase your sentence. I will use all my resources to provide more evidence, including our phone recordings and text messages. Oh, and the security footage of you stealing the phone from the hospital. Theft is also a crime. I will do everything I can to make sure you rot in prison for the rest of your life. Evelyn's words, clear and sharp, were like needles stabbing into Vivian's ears. The hatred in Vivian's eyes was terrifying. She stared at Evelyn, a surge of rage catching in her throat, choking her. You, what right do you have to punish me? Vivian shrieked, fury rising from her feet to her head. Evelyn leaned back gracefully, crossing her arms and looking down at her with disdain. A small smile played on her lips as she deliberately provoked Vivian. The right comes from the fact that you're in here, the suspect, and I am the victim. Ethan and I are both victims. Vivian shot to her feet, her hands gripping the bars, her pupils dilating as her face twisted into a grotesque mask of rage. Who's the victim? I am. You two played me for a fool. Ethan was my man. I was by his side for years. I did my best for him. Your appearance threw his heart into chaos. You were divorced. What right did you have to come back and steal my man? He was your ex-husband. He had nothing to do with you anymore. Vivian's screams were heart-wrenching, like a cornered, wounded animal fighting to the last. Evelyn watched her without expression, her eyes full of contempt. A triumphant smile slowly spread across her face. Vivian, I've consulted a lawyer. Your crimes are severe. Let me list them for you: theft, assault with intent to harm, unlawful imprisonment, intentional injury, attempted murder, and one more, being completely unrepentant. I will not grant you any leniency, and I trust you'll have the backbone to plead not guilty in court. I wonder if, after sentencing, you'll ever see the outside of a prison again. Evelyn's smile deepened as she raised an eyebrow. Perhaps you'll just die in there. You never loved Ethan. If you did, you wouldn't have hurt him. A flicker of realization crossed Vivian's face. She bared her teeth and roared with fury. You're lying. I love him more than anyone. My affairs are none of your business, Evelyn. You dare to move against me? You want me to die in here, quietly. You don't have the power. Evelyn stood up calmly and shot the crazed woman one last cold look. No rush, Vivian. Once you're locked up for good, the real fun begins. You should try to live as long as possible. The game will be more interesting that way. After Ethan dies, your real suffering will officially begin. Evelyn would not let this vicious woman off the hook. With those final words, she turned and left. Behind her, Vivian's raw screams echoed. Evelyn, I hate you. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Just you wait, an officer sighed. I think that woman's gone mad. Evelyn paused. She immediately instructed him, don't let a psychiatrist see her. Vivian is devious. If she tries to use a mental illness defense to get a lighter sentence, it would be letting a dangerous person off too easily. The officer nodded. Rest assured, she has no history of mental illness. We will handle her case fairly and justly. After leaving the station, Evelyn contacted her lawyer and handed over all the evidence she had compiled against Vivian. This includes the recording of her trying to kill me. My phone was recording the entire time I was at the ruins. There's also the surveillance footage of her theft and testimony from the doctors and nurses. Ethan's and my medical reports are also very important. You must ensure Vivian is punished to the fullest extent of the law. We cannot let this evil woman get away with what she's done. The lawyer carefully reviewed each document before placing them in his briefcase. Don't worry, Vivian's crimes are enough to get her more than 10 years. She won't have it easy. I will handle this case diligently and get justice for you and Mr. Hawthorne. Evelyn, filled with gratitude, pressed a pre-prepared gift into the lawyer's hand. Thank you for your trouble. By the time she returned to the hospital, it was dark. To her surprise, Ethan was awake and sitting up in bed, eating dinner. When the nurse saw her return, she left the room. Evelyn walked over to Ethan, taking off her coat and hanging it up. You're looking well today. Ethan took a sip of porridge. I am. For some reason, I feel full of energy. I don't know why. Evelyn sat opposite him, noticing the flush of color on his cheeks, which stood out starkly against his pale skin. A dreadful thought entered her mind. Could this be a final rally before the end? Evelyn, the nurse told me you went to the police station today. How is Vivian? Ethan asked. Evelyn replied slowly, she's the same as always, blaming you, cursing me. But she won't have another chance to harm us. I've given all the evidence to the lawyer. She won't be forgiven for her crimes. She brought this upon herself. Ethan nodded slightly. That's good. Putting down his spoon, he asked another question. I vaguely remember Kyle saying that you were sick and had to be treated overseas for a long time. Evelyn froze. A look of self-reproach crossed Ethan's face. Something so major happened to you, and I didn't even know. I'm ashamed. Seeing his dejected expression, Evelyn quickly took his large hand in hers, rubbing it between her own cold palms. Silly, I'm fine. It was just a benign tumor that needed surgery. Leo Ramsey knew a doctor overseas, and the surgery would be more reliable there. It wasn't some incurable disease. You're overthinking it. I had just gotten divorced. I was in a bad place, and I didn't want to stay in that city of sad memories, so I went abroad. Evelyn didn't tell him the real reason. She couldn't bear to add to his psychological burden, to make him feel any more guilt. Evelyn, I'm sorry. I had no idea you were sick. I made you go so far away for treatment. I apologize. Tears welled in Ethan's eyes, and his low, hoarse voice was choked with emotion. Evelyn quickly stood up and did a little hop and twirl. It's fine, see. I'm perfectly healthy now, not a single thing wrong. You don't need to be sad. I still have to raise Kyle. Ethan gave a bitter smile. He knew she was just trying to comfort him. Evelyn, Leo Ramsey is a good man. I can see that he truly cares for you. After I'm gone, Evelyn immediately cut him off. She sat down beside him, her clear eyes fixed on his, and said seriously, I know what you're trying to say. You think I'm still young and will eventually remarry, and it would be better to be with Leo than some other man? But let me be very clear. That's not going to happen, at least not before Kyle is married. I won't be with another man. I can't let anyone else have a claim on the assets you left. Any man would be tempted by that much money. When Kyle comes of age, I will give everything to him. This is out of respect for you, and it's my responsibility to Kyle. Ethan was stunned. He hadn't expected Evelyn to have thought things through so thoroughly. After a long silence, he took a deep breath to calm his complex emotions. Evelyn, he said slowly, thank you for thinking of Kyle's future. Evelyn smiled serenely. Kyle is my son. Of course I will do what's best for him. I have to minimize the harm to him in any way I can. Ethan agreed. He pressed his pale lips together. Evelyn, if there's a next life, I hope I meet you sooner, protect you properly, and never, ever hurt you again. Evelyn's nose tingled, and she lowered her gaze, forcing a smile. All right, I'll listen to you. Whatever you say. That entire night, Ethan was in high spirits. He lay in bed and talked nonstop. He talked about his childhood, about things that happened as he grew up. He talked about the day he met Evelyn and all the little moments they had shared. The memories poured out of him like water from a faucet, a slow, steady stream. Evelyn lay beside him, a quiet, attentive listener. Every word he spoke would become a precious memory for her in the days to come. She didn't know how much time passed before she drifted off to sleep. She had a long dream. In her dream, she was back at the moment she first met Ethan. Hi, I'm Ethan Hawthorne. The handsome boy's face was imprinted in her mind under the bright sun. She ruffled her hair and smiled, taking his outstretched hand. Hi, I'm Evelyn Sterling. When she opened her eyes again, the man beside her was gone forever. Tears slid from the corners of her eyes. So, last night had been his final goodbye. Ethan, if there's a next life, please don't be sick. Don't love me so much. Love yourself a little more, okay? Evelyn raised a hand and gently stroked his handsome face, whispering to herself. Ethan Hawthorne, you're a bastard. When I loved you, you pushed me away. Now that I'm back, you've left this world. We were destined to be apart, a pair of tragic lovers, weren't we? If I could, I would wish we had never met. Then it wouldn't be so painful, we wouldn't have scarred each other so badly. Evelyn rambled on, as if in a trance, her eyes dark and empty. Seeing her state, the attending physician had no choice but to call a psychiatrist to lead her away from the cold body. It's time to handle the arrangements. Wait, don't tell Dr. Shawcross yet. Evelyn forced herself to her feet and grabbed the doctor's hand. I'm fine, I'll handle all the arrangements. She was determined not to let Kyle know. Before he died, Ethan specifically said that Liam was to take care of Kyle and protect him. Let Kyle have some peace during this time. The doctor understood her intentions and shook his head helplessly. All right, you're his family. I respect your decision. Arranging a funeral is exhausting. Please take care of your mental state. Ethan's body was taken to the funeral home. The service was small and quiet. To prevent the news from reaching Kyle, Evelyn instructed everyone to keep silent. Aside from a few senior executives from the company who came to pay their respects to the new heir, Evelyn, everyone else believed that Ethan had gone abroad for medical treatment. At Ethan's gravesite, after Evelyn had taken care of everything, buying him a beautiful plot and setting up a headstone, the attending physician came to lay flowers. Mr. Hawthorne was a strong patient, and you are a great woman. If you ever need help in the future, please don't hesitate to ask. I will do everything I can. Evelyn smiled at him. Thank you. Just then, a familiar figure appeared. The doctor gave an apologetic smile. When Mr. Ramsey went abroad, he was worried about you. He left me his contact information and asked me to let him know if anything happened to Mr. Hawthorne, so he could come back and check on you. Evelyn was silent for a moment. She didn't blame the doctor. Instead, she dismissed him gently. I'll talk to Leo alone. Doctor, you can go back now. Okay. The doctor understood the complex relationship between the three and didn't intend to interfere. Leo Ramsey looked much thinner, his face drawn and weary. Evelyn, he said her name softly, then turned to place the flowers he was holding on the grave. He bowed 3 times to Ethan. Rest in peace, he said politely. Evelyn sighed. Let's go, Ethan needs his rest. Let's not disturb him. They went to a Western restaurant. Leo ordered 2 steaks and a bottle of red wine. Just something simple. I can see you don't have much of an appetite. Evelyn gave a bitter smile. I can't remember the last time I had a proper meal. No matter how delicious the food, it all tastes like ash in my mouth. Leo cut her steak for her, placing the pieces neatly on her plate. Evelyn, it's all in the past now. The sad, painful days are over. What you need to do now is focus on your work and raising Kyle. Don't think about Ethan anymore. Evelyn took a bite of beef. I know, she said softly. How long are you back for, Leo? Leo considered. It depends. If you're doing well, I'll leave in 3 days. If you need me, I can stay as long as you want. During his time abroad, he had discovered he couldn't forget Evelyn. The thought of never seeing her again, of cutting ties completely, would leave him with a lifetime of regret. Since he couldn't be her lover, Leo was willing to take a step back and be her friend. He would bury his unrequited love deep in his heart. Having made his decision, he was trying to figure out a way to return to her life when the doctor called with the news of Ethan's death. Leo seized the opportunity to come back and see Evelyn, the woman who occupied his every thought. Leo, about us? Evelyn hesitated, unsure how to express her feelings without hurting the man who had been her benefactor. Leo spoke before she could. Evelyn, don't worry. I've given up on my romantic feelings for you. We've known each other for years as schoolmates. From now on, I'll be by your side as a friend, like a brother. Evelyn looked up in surprise. Leo, have you really come to terms with it? Of course, he said firmly. Evelyn was relieved. She didn't want to cut ties with him either. He had saved her life when she was sick, a debt she had yet to repay. She couldn't be ungrateful. Seeing that he was willing to let go of the past and be friends again filled her with relief. Leo, as long as you no longer have romantic intentions, I would love to be your good friend. We can work together, combine our strengths in the jewelry industry, and create something amazing. Leo agreed. It would be my honor to collaborate with a designer as talented as you. Having reached an understanding, Leo decided to move his overseas company to their home country and work alongside Evelyn to become a leader in the jewelry world. After a week, Evelyn slowly began to emerge from her overwhelming grief. She went to Liam's house and brought Kyle back to the villa. She hired nannies and security guards to work there, primarily to take care of Kyle. Liam also returned to work at the hospital. He gave Kyle a cell phone. My dear godson, if there's anything you want, or if you run into any trouble, just call me. My phone will be on for you 24/7. Kyle happily accepted the gift. Thank you, Godfather, I'll take good care of it. To him, his father was still alive, just very sick and receiving long-term treatment overseas. Evelyn specifically instructed everyone who knew the truth, Remember, Mr. Hawthorne has gone abroad. No one is to say anything different in front of the young master. It's a white lie to protect his innocence. Sometimes, the truth is too cruel for a child to bear and can cause wounds that never heal. In those cases, we must use a kind lie to soothe the pain. Everyone understood and agreed. Don't worry, chairwoman, we won't tell the young master. Protecting him is our duty. We would never do anything to hurt him. As long as he grows up healthy and happy, it's all worth it. Evelyn was grateful. She was surrounded by loyal subordinates, not scheming relatives. Many years passed in the blink of an eye. The jewelry group led by Evelyn became a titan of the industry. Leo, as a partner company, also became incredibly successful. After the attending physician retired, Liam was promoted to be the new department head. Kyle grew up healthy and strong. With the companionship of Leo and Liam, he did not become withdrawn or introverted. He inherited Ethan's brilliant mind and handsome looks, and he had a keen talent for business. Evelyn often brought him to the company, showing him the empire Ethan had left behind, telling him it was all a gift from his father. Life became peaceful and serene, free of conflict. One afternoon, Evelyn received a call from the prison. Vivian Shaw had committed suicide. For years, Vivian had been tormented in prison, suffering daily mental and physical anguish. Gradually, she had descended into madness. Late last night, she had chosen to end her own life. Evelyn felt nothing, not the joy of revenge, nor any saintly pity. She simply went to Ethan's grave to share the news. If there is a next life, we will be together, properly.